Good morning and welcome to a much sunnier Brands Hatch here in Kent for two more rounds of the GB3 Championship alongside two further rounds of the GB4 Championship. We've already had one race this weekend in both of the championships, and in the GB3 Championship Matthew Rees won his maiden race. He's been plugging away all season, improving very slowly, making his way up the grid and finally standing on that top step here at Brands Hatch. So let's catch up with the highlights from yesterday.
Highlights from round 19 of the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, would see Matthew Rees starting from pole position. A great start from Luke Browning, who'd take over second position on the race down towards the first corner, getting ahead of his championship rival in Yoel Grandfors. Callum Voisin was marching his way back up the order after having to start from the back of the grid after issues in qualifying. He'd be picking up 1, 2, 3, 4 places, marching his way towards the top 10 around the outside. One of the corners where he made an incident earlier. Next up was Max Esterson. This was a position to get himself inside the top 10 and his rival for the top 3 in the championship. Straight around the outside once again up at the Hawthorns before they got to Westfield Bend. Callum Voisin was back inside the top 10. He'll have to do that quite a few times. Javier Segura with a big moment though, coming through Sheen Curve after Dingle Dow. He'd managed to rejoin the circuit, but he'd come back into the pit lane to retire from the race. Matthew Rees, only one podium before this season. He comes out of the final corner to take victory at Brands Hatch in the opening race of the weekend. A super performance from Matthew Rees ahead of Luke Browning and Yoel Grandfors.
So a great day for Matthew Rees with JHR Developments, and Piers Pryor, our co-commentator and driver yourself. I mean, from his position where he's come into this having been a championship winner last season and struggled a little bit in this new car and slowly made his way up, it must be a huge confidence boost for him going into the race today.
Yeah, he's started the season strong at Alton Park with a podium there, but then it's just wavered a little bit. Trying to keep that consistency up has been a bit difficult, but he's been working hard. We spoke to both his driver coaches, Callan and Mike, yesterday, and they've been working hard behind the scenes as well as Matthew, and it's all that effort has shown itself with that win yesterday. Strong showing in qualifying, being second, third fastest, I think, and then obviously dominating victory yesterday, so he's very happy with that, and he's going to hope to continue that form going into the final round and maybe even next year, hopefully, if he rejoins us then.
Now at JHR Developments, we've seen James Headley come in, and we were talking earlier in the season about the importance of having a teammate just for more data so you can learn more about the car, learn more about the track. Do you think that's played a little bit of a part in this?
I think it's got a part to play, definitely. I was speaking to Callan off camera as well, and he was saying that it's just so useful to have a reference point. And there was, in testing, although Matthew was the one that put it slightly higher up in qualifying, in testing, there were areas of the circuit where James was way faster, and it helped have someone else to show you how fast the car can go, and they work both together to improve each other, and that's the importance of having a teammate. Because if you're on your own, you're only looking at yourself and you haven't got that sort of external reference to see exactly what can be done, and they both push each other forward. And it's a strong showing this weekend from JHR Developments, with obviously Matthew Rees doing very well in race 1, and James Headley showing strong pace in qualifying as well. I know he was a bit disappointed with how it went, not quite getting the lap together, but other than that, it's a very strong showing from them, and they've improved throughout the season, especially with two drivers.
I said to Luke Browning there that it's not his race against Matthew Rees, he's racing against Yoel Grandfors, and it was very important for him to finish ahead of Yoel, now taking the lead in the championship down to 6.5 points. What's he going to be looking for in this first race today? I mean, he really wants to get a little bit of a gap between him and Yoel.
It really is a two-horse race in the championship now, especially with the difficulties that Callum Voisin had in qualifying. So they are effectively racing each other. They're going to try and beat each other. They don't really care about anyone else. Of course, they can put cars between each other. So Luke Browning will ideally want to jump Yoel at the start, and again, like he did yesterday, and then potentially put a car in between himself and Yoel, because that obviously increases the points gap. But they're both trying to fight each other. We know how fast both of them are. They are the leading drivers in both podiums and race wins this year. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting end to the season. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes, because it could go either way.
Well, as I said, two more races here this weekend, and then we have the final weekend at Donington at about a month's time, 3 more races there. So it really is getting to the business end of the season. Let's take a look at the championship table. As I mentioned there, 6.5 point gap between Yoel Grandfors and Luke Browning. So Yoel's on 393.5 points with Luke on 387. We mentioned Callum Voisin just there. He's on 304 in 3rd place. A little bit of a gap between him and Roberto Faria, who's been very consistent. We've seen a lot of podiums from Roberto Faria, 277.5 for the Brazilian. Max Esterson, a driver that's improved and impressed us quite a lot, hasn't he, as he's developed and got used to this GB3 car. He's on 266.5 points in 5th. And then Tom Leben, who's been very fast here, very fast, and starts on pole position, of course, in this next race. On 6th place on 259.5 points. So Tom Leben going very, very well in the Elite Motorsports car. And we mentioned Callum Boyce in there, and he was very, very impressive, so we saw in those highlights, making up all those places. And I really think that he could cement his place as maybe the bronze medal winner, the 3rd place driver this year. He's
shown, especially in the latter stage of the season, sort of midpoint onwards, that he's been effectively the 3rd best driver. He had some amazing showings at Silverstone. He had that race win initially at Spa before obviously there was a bit of a confusion with the results, but he showed really good pace. And despite the issue he had in qualifying yesterday, where he made a mistake that meant he's going to have to start all 3 races this weekend, yesterday and 2 today, from the back of the grid, he made up, I think it was 11, 12, 13 place or something like that after the different bits that went on, picking a person off, almost a person per lap around this very notoriously tricky circuit to overtake. Yeah, so he's doing excellently.
Well, we've talked about him enough. Piers caught up with him yesterday at the end of the day, and here's how it went down.
So the first race of the weekend in GB3 was an excellent race, not only for the guys at the front, but also, Callum, you made some excellent manoeuvres, and tell us how about your race, where you started and where you got to.
Yeah, obviously I didn't have the best of qualies, well, far from it. I ended up spinning, and then I ended up in the wall, so I didn't get a lap in, but I kind of put that behind me, and then I decided, you know, there's nothing to lose anymore, so, you know, I had a really good race. I managed to get a good start, and then after that it was just trying to pick people off, make sure you get good exits and stuff like that. So in the end, I think I ended up P9 on the road, but no, I mean, it was really good. Just kept it clean and used my head, which is all I needed to do.
Yeah, of course, Brands Hatch GP, an amazing circuit to drive. You had some really good pace in practice and qualifying up until your really unfortunate incident, but this circuit is notoriously difficult to overtake. So how did you make so many places throughout the race?
To be honest, I don't really know. I mean, everybody's kind of saying, well, you know, P21 to P9 isn't bad for a track where you notoriously is hard to overtake at. But no, I mean, we've had a really good pace this whole weekend. It's just unfortunate I've, you know, made some driver errors when it counts the most. But I mean, yeah, just as long as you kind of stay patient and get good exits, usually at some point somebody's going to make a mistake. So you just got to be patient and just try and surprise people whilst making those moves.
Well, that's great, and well done for bouncing back from the issue from qualifying. You've got some you got the support from the BRDC, I believe. Now you're a rising star, I believe, going forward the rest of the year. What does that mean for you as a driver at this point in your career?
I mean, it's very nice to be recognised by such an organisation with such a kind of long history and rich history. So it's very nice to be recognised by them, especially as a young driver trying to make a name for themselves. So they were very welcoming, they were very nice, and I mean, hopefully I can move up the ranks in the BRDC kind of ladder.
Amazing. And what are you expecting, or what are your hopes for the final 2 races this weekend?
Obviously, so I'll be starting last for all the races this weekend. So I think just if we can get another couple of points like that, bagging good points and staying out of trouble, I think that's the most we can do. So, damage limitation, and then we'll bounce back at Donington.
Amazing, great. Well done today. Hopefully you have a great couple of races for the remaining of this weekend, and obviously into the final round as well. So thanks very much, Callum. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that was Piers at the Carling Garage after the racing yesterday. I'm now back at the Carling Garage with Javier Segura, who didn't have the day you would have wanted yesterday.
No, I think, obviously from a P2 in practice, I expected more in qualifying, which ended in a P10, so not very happy. And from there on, Brands Hatch is a really narrow circuit, so overtaking is quite difficult. Just made a position in the start and kept it behind the guys. And unfortunately, I broke a piece of the car connected to the tire, so I just ran off the track and had to box.
Okay, so that's disappointing for you, but you've seen what Callum managed to do yesterday at a track that you've just mentioned is very hard to overtake. So heading into this next race, that must give you some confidence, and you're going to want to make up for yesterday.
Yeah, I think it's tougher once you're starting from the back. You can always make some places, but pace goes up as you go charging through. So yeah, I think obviously I expect to do good things. I start from P8 today, so it's a bit higher up, So the start needs to be crucial, and from there on, just full attack and you know, make the guys in front make mistakes, keep the pressure on. So.
Now yesterday there was a sort of threat of rain around, and it looks like it's going to be a much sunnier morning at least, and that must be a bit more reassuring for you, because yesterday was kind of, we never really knew how, if it was going to rain, how heavy it would be.
Well, I think, to be honest with you, I would have liked it to rain. It gives you a bit more opportunities, you know, to make up some places.
Yeah.
So I'll pray for some rain today, but I don't think it's going to happen.
All right, well, Javier will be doing his rain dance at the Carling Garage. Best of luck with that race. And yesterday, after the first race here at Brands Hatch, Piers caught up with the Hill Speed driver Nick Gilks.
So I've caught up with Nick Gilks here outside the Hill Speed awning. I hear you've been doing a bit of sim racing around recently. Do you want to tell us a bit about what you've been doing?
Yeah, quite a lot, using iRacing and Assetto Corsa racing with actually quite a lot of other drivers, and sort of preparing for this race weekend. And actually we started probably just before SNET, so I guess that's when the improvements started to come in, so I guess I can credit that a little bit.
Amazing, so you're using the simulator. It's quite good to see a bit of a social aspect. So who are the other drivers you've been racing with?
Nick Taylor, that's mostly it. James Higgins, he's been testing a British F4. You know, I'm not too sure actually. That's mostly them. One of the Carlin mechanics, Tom Wallace, he's quite good on a sim as well, so we have a lot of fun. It's sort of like a GB3, GB4 mixed together. Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. I mean, I do bits in racing myself. It's really good fun. You gain quite a lot from the simming racing. Do you feel like you learn the circuits better or anything like that?
Oh, 100%. It always helps when you come to a circuit and know exactly where it goes, and you can sort of test everything you want to on a sim. Obviously, it's a bit different to real life because the cars aren't the exact same, but you can figure out a lot of things, what works, what doesn't, and it's really a great help.
The one thing that you don't get in the simulator, of course, is the simulator, you're sitting at home, nice and stable and comfy in your own home, whereas we're here at Brands Hatch GP this weekend, an amazing circuit. You know, talk to us about the difference between maybe with the undulation and stuff, because obviously you can't quite get that on the sim, can you?
Yeah, you do sit really low in real life. In the sim, it tends to be a bit higher, but the actual fundamentals of the circuit you get, but it's a bit of learning sort of when you get there, because you can't actually see as much. It is a bit of an adaptation you have to do, but it's still quite effective.
And is this your first experience of no, this isn't your first experience of racing Brands GP, is it? Or is it?
GP it is. I did the Indy circuit last year at the festival.
Yeah. And how are you finding the GP circuit? A lot of people say it's one of the best ones. Do you agree?
It's very intense, I'll say that. Yeah, there's no margin for error anywhere, and that's actually, speaking of sim racing, where that comes in handy, because it's very cheap repairs on there, so yeah.
Much cheaper than real life. And you've managed to get yourself pole position for race 3. What are your hopes for the race going ahead?
It's impossible to tell, to be honest. We'll see how it goes. It's mostly about the start, because whoever leads into the first corner is probably going to stay there, but who knows? It's a race. You never know what can happen. You can never predict these things.
Well, hopefully you lead into the first corner. Good luck, Nick, and hopefully have a great race 3.
Thank you.
Well, to West Kingsdown in Kent we head, and to Brands Hatch for the penultimate race weekend of the season. What a fantastic circuit. It's such a historic one, having been run in the Indy layout since the early 30s. It's been run time and time again, backwards, forwards, when it was dirt. It's been an incredible venue for motorsport inside the United Kingdom, with the Grand Prix loop, which will be running this weekend. It is one for the brave. So many great corners around here when you come through Paddock Hill up towards Druids, that entire Grand Prix loop with Hawthorns, Westfield and Sheen Curve up towards Stirlings. It is a track which requires bravery, it requires commitment, and it requires absolutely no fear.
Number 50, Yoel Grandforce, completely committed to Paddock Hill Bend, on the power so early the car compresses at the bottom. Pick your braking point for Druids Bend, the hairpin. It goes flat to the apex, trying to get in there, trying to get to the apex, just missed it slightly, but it doesn't hamper his lap too much. Over to the right hand side to open up Graham Hill Bend, a tricky corner, slides away on the exit. You have to watch the track limits on the exit there. Now we're going towards Surtees, a very technical corner, very wide entry to get a late apex for a great exit up the long straight towards Hawthorns Corner. Just a moment to breathe now, probably the only point on the circuit where you can relax. We go down Pilgrim's Drop underneath the bridge. Car once again compresses as we prepare ourselves to fully commit to Hawthorne's corner, just down 1 gear, almost flat out, use all the road on the exit, but no more. Brake down 1 gear for this corner, which is completely committed. Don't go wide on the exit because the car will bottom out and take you straight into the barriers. Now we have Sheen, again, another full commitment, completely blind. Get on the power nice and early, roll the minimum speed in there, and then the banked corner here left to try and open up the last sector of the lap, trying to keep it to the left-hand side. You go under the bridge, the final corner, completely committed. Don't quite make the apex, but it doesn't seem to hamper our minimum speed, which is the most important thing as we round out this less than 1 minute 20 lap of the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit.
Well, we're here in the assembly area. The sun's come out now. It's one of those days where, as you can see, I'm wearing this, you're wearing a t-shirt, and it's just, I don't know what's going on. I also have to correct myself. I did say there that Luke Browning will be starting in 3rd. I got that wrong. Luke Browning will be starting 4th, which means Joël Grandforce, the championship leader, will be starting in 3rd place here behind Matthew Rees, who we saw win that race yesterday. And then Tom Leben, of course. And for Tom Leben, it's kind of the pole position he should have had yesterday, isn't it, Piers?
Of course, he got double pole in qualifying, setting the 1st and 2nd fastest lap, which sets your grid for the 1st and 2nd race, respectively. Unfortunately, having to take a 5 place grid penalty. There you go. Thanks for that. Thanks for helping me there, John. 5 place grid penalty after something carried over from Silverstone. So he was disappointed with that, but still gets to take pole position in this 2nd race of the weekend, which I'm sure he will be making the most of. Fastest driver in qualifying, looked really quick in testing as well. Both him and his elite teammate as well, John Bennett. So yeah, they've been doing really well, and he'll hope to hopefully have a podium and do what Matthew Rees did exactly yesterday, which was lead from the front and have a lights flag victory.
Well, talking of Matthew Rees, we obviously saw Matthew win yesterday, and that was, you know, a long time coming. And starting 2nd, I know Tom Leben does have good pace, but he's got to fancy his chances off the line, because if he can get into that 1st corner first, he's proven what he can do, and he can hold that lead.
Completely agree. He's yesterday got on a perfect start, pulled away. I think it was over a second by the end of the 1st lap. Helped, of course, by the fight for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th between Browning, Granfers, and I believe Bennett. We'll see what happens. It's all about the first couple of corners. Matthew Rees should be starting on the left-hand side. So if you get a good launch, you've got a clear run around the outside of paddock, and then you can carry that down into Druids, which you can overtake on the inside and the outside. It's all about the start and who places their car well.
It is indeed. Okay, so let's move back. We can see Luke Browning, who I mentioned there was in 3rd. He's actually starting in 4th here. Now, Luke Browning, we spoke to his dad yesterday, one of those people that's always got family around. And, I mean, Luke Browning here has a bit of a problem, because Luke Browning is 6.5 points behind in the championship. Joël Grandforce is the guy that he's racing against, and, you know, Joël's at 1 place ahead, which can make all the difference, because, you know, say there's a bit of a tussle between Tom Leben and Matthew Rees in that 1st corner. Yeah. He can really profit from that. So I guess if you're Luke Browning, you've got to be, you know, you've got to attack, but you've also got to wait and see what happens in front of you.
Yes, so yesterday Luke Browning managed to jump Granfers at the start and get the head, which then closed the gap in the championship ever so slightly down to just, was it 6.5 points now?
6.5 points.
6.5 points, I believe. So very close. He'll be hoping to do exactly that again, but Granfers, while he's got that championship lead, he's going to try and stay ahead and hopefully allow our cars to get between them. You can see John Bennett there as well, another strong qualifying for John. He's just inside the top 5, so he's had a very strong showing, 2 5th places in qualifying and 4th place yesterday in the race, so he's been really well. Those elite cars looking really good this weekend.
Now, Alex Connor is just behind John Bennett, so you can see the pictures here. John Bennett is in the black and yellow Elite Motorsports car, number 27. And behind him is Alex Connor, and Alex kind of had the worst luck when the season started at Alton Park. He had an engine problem, which meant that you know, the whole weekend was, you know, he started just basically the whole championship in a really, really bad place, and it was no fault of his own. Now, I think this is his best qualification so far, actually, and in fact, Bryce Aaron, who's just behind Luke Browning's teammate in the high-tech car, these guys have been one of those sort of slow burners where they've now, you know, come and shown us what they can really do. And for Alex Cotter, who we're looking at right now, you know, this is a big day for him, because he really could get a podium.
It's the first time that he could, I think it's the first time this season that he could potentially get himself in the top 5 quite early in the race. It's a really strong qualifying. Again, the Arden cars this weekend looking excellent. We mentioned it quite a lot yesterday, but Alex is looking really racy this weekend. He clearly feels in the groove with the car. They found something as a team and also as a driver himself. And then also, as we mentioned just a moment ago, Bryce Aaron with another strong qualifying, not far behind his teammate and championship protagonist Luke Browning. So getting towards the end of the season, those first year drivers are getting the experience, they're learning the cars, they're getting more comfortable, they know how the weekend works, how to get the most out of the tyres, the most out of the qualifying sessions, be in the right place at the right time.
Now, we all know that racing drivers are traditionally very small. That's why you're a racing driver and I'm not a racing driver.
I think I'm 6'4".
Well, yes, that's what I'm 6'4" 4.5, I don't know. Alex Connor is a very small guy,
Yes.
very slight but also very muscular.
Yes.
But I did notice he had an injury to his hand. I know you chatted to him earlier.
Yeah.
Is that something that might affect him?
Yeah, we were just walking through the paddock earlier on trying to catch some of the drivers this morning, and I saw his, I think his, must have been his right or left.
It's his right, yeah.
His right wrist was just taped up. I asked him, was everything okay? And he said, yeah, basically in testing a week and a half ago here, he had a big moment, and these cockpits are so tight, you know, your elbows are right in and it's very confined. He had a big snap of oversteer, which meant he went oversteer, and when he came back, his elbow got caught against the side of the cockpit, and it jammed his wrist and caused him a bit of a thumb wrist injury, but he said it's all good. He's just strapping it up to give it a bit of extra support, but I'm sure he'll be absolutely fine going forward.
Excellent stuff. Well, I'm just trying to see if we can grab someone here while we just have a brief pause. It's a really weird one, actually. Normally we have a lot of friends and family around in this assembly area, and I don't know, but I can't really see any friends and family.
Not today.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know whether they've all had a big Saturday night in Dartford. I'm not entirely sure. We could go and speak to Callan and see how Matthew's getting on. I mean, we spoke to him yesterday. So Callan O'Keefe runs a driver's training school at the School of Send, and grab a quick word with him here. Let's see if he's got a moment for us, Callan. We're just chatting about you guys. Obviously, we talked yesterday after Matthew's amazing victory. I mean, you know, I'm guessing after you sort of did a debrief, he was over the moon. He's got a really good chance of getting a second victory today, we think.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the great thing about motorsport is with these young drivers, even we take the win yesterday, we enjoy the moment, but we're straight back to work because they've still got so much more to give. So very nice to look through the footage yesterday. We've identified hopefully a few points that should help him today fight for the victory. It's going to be a very difficult race. Obviously, Tom's on a very good set of tyres. He's used that tyre strategy really, really well that we've got in this championship. So yeah, it's going to come down to the start. Hopefully a good one off the line, and hopefully some action and some fireworks going through the first few laps.
Absolutely. Just before me and Piers were talking about the importance of having a teammate now with James Headley joining JHR, has that been a great help? Obviously Matthew's a very talented driver in his own right, but just in terms of the data.
Yeah, I mean, no one can do it all by themselves, and as I said, these kids are so young. They're still learning, they're still developing, they're sort of finding their own style. It's like a golfer, everyone's got a different swing, and everyone does things slightly differently. So having James has been great. James is an immaculately, talented young driver, and he's massively helped. And unfortunately, James isn't, where we'd like him to be. But I've no doubt that in hopefully this race, the next one as well, in the reverse grid race, he can hopefully show a strong showing. And we still got one more round at Donington for James to show his true potential.
We have indeed. Best of luck to you, Matthew, and the rest of the team, Callan. We'll move on. Maybe we'll chat again in the podium. Depends how Matthew's race goes on. Now let's look for more friends and family. I don't know, have you spotted anyone, Piers? Have you spotted any friends and family?
I haven't spotted that many people that I know, unfortunately.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Normally they're...
Maybe we're up in the stands, because it is quite a walk from all the stands to this part of the start of the pit lane.
Very good point. I mean, we could go into the details of how far we've walked this weekend already, but I don't think we
did 20,000 steps yesterday.
There you go, look at him, that's why
I only got little
svelte.
legs, but still.
Yeah, I only did 15,000, which shows why you're such a small, svelte man who can fit in a motor car.
Right, see if we can grab
let's have a look. We can head back here. Let's move around.
Have a look down here. We can see, obviously, we mentioned earlier on, and Nick Jilks obviously disappointing not to get his pole position in race 3, which should be he'll be fighting forward from 6th place though.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Nick's very upset here, starting in 20th place, and I know that he's found it kind of hard to take with that penalty being applied to the racer a little bit later on, where he would have started in pole, now starting 6th. I still think he's got a good chance from 6th. I mean,
get a podium in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And in front of Nick, we can see Brandon Oxley here, and Brandon Oxley is one of the drivers that has a lot of family watching around the world. So I like to give him a shout out. So hello to all of Brandon's family watching in Thailand. I know that a lot of people support him out there with his dad, who's very, very supportive as well. And I know that his brother's always at the race. Supporting him and making sure that he's in good spirits, much like Megan and Nick Jilks do, really. That kind of sibling support that you get, which I guess is a bond.
Uncustomary this race, with Megan not being here to congratulate Nick, because of course the race is very soon after. We're running a double show in this one, aren't we, this morning?
Yeah, that is true, actually. Yeah, normally we'll see one of them, whichever one's not driving, supporting the other one. But yeah, I guess Megan's probably going through her pre-race ritual, whatever that is. And we talked many times about drivers' pre-race rituals. Mikkel Grunvik back here. Nice to know he didn't have that shower. We talked yesterday, if you didn't watch the broadcast, a fire extinguisher went off, a bit of a malfunction in the car. I think it wasn't in relation to an accident as such, but a soapy shower, I think he called it, which is fine in the morning, but maybe not while you're
right before quali.
Yeah,
not ideal.
Not when you're in qualifying. So that wasn't ideal.
We've got another car to watch. We just saw behind there is Nick Jilks behind Nick Jilks we have Callum Voice in the car to watch in that blue and orange car, in livery car. making up, was it, over 10 places yesterday in race 1. He'll be looking to do the same again. He's got brand new tyres on the right-hand side of his car for the race 2, and then they'll be not too bad with this clockwise circuit in race 3 as well, because the left-hand tyres get worn more round here than the right-hand tyres, especially that middle sector, high speed, 3 right-handers in a row. The temperature builds, and that's what really wears those tyres down. So
we know, as well as Callum Voisin, who's just behind here, that also Marcus Flack's taking new tyres, and also Tommy Smith, the Australian driver, taking 2 new tyres as well. And why would it be, Piers, that only 3 of the drivers on the grid are taking those 2 new tyres? Is it all down to how many they've used so far, and maybe if you're going to be further up the grid for the reverse grid race, you maybe want the fresh tyres for that race with the chance to score points?
It's all on your own strategy, really. You can play the tyres how you want. We've mentioned before, you get 8 tyres for the 3 races and qualifying. Everyone will use 1 new set in qualifying to set their fastest laps, of course, because new tyres are generally faster than a used tyre. And then they can either take a full new set, like Tom Leben actually has in this race. Tom Leben's got a full new scrubbed set, so they haven't got the stickers on, but they have only basically done a lap at slow speed, because you can scrub them in, which gets them to temperature a bit faster on the out lap. Whereas some other tyres, I know that second place we've got Matthew Rees, and third place Granfers have both got new left-hand tyres that are scrubbed. Yeah, you can see that, as we mentioned a moment ago, Voisin's got new right-hand tyres, and then the 2 Douglas cars here have got their 2 new left-hand tyres. So there's lots of different strategies, different teams and drivers play out differently. It often depends on your grid position, how you feel you're going to overtake, whether you feel you're going to be racy, whether you want to backload your racing, so that if you think you've got a good chance of getting forward in the reverse grid race, you might save your 4 new tyres, your second set of new tyres for that race. Or the drivers at the front will generally use more of their new tyres in the race 1 and race 2, because there's more opportunity for points in those races, especially on a circuit like this where it's hard to overtake. At Silverstone, we saw loads of overtaking. Your Granfus making it to the podium from pretty much the back of the grid in race 3, so you can overtake there. So they might have potentially taken 2 new tyres in that race, whereas this time they've gone new tyres race 1, new tyres race 2, because they don't think they're going to be able to make as much hay as they did at Silverstone in race 3. So they thought, right, just conserve our tyres. And it's all about trying to maximise your points over the weekend, not just for one race.
Makes a lot of sense. Great insight there. Now, Zach Taylor, who we can see here driving for Chris Dittman Racing for the first time this weekend. Quickly, Piers, before the cars go out there, have you changed teams mid-season?
I have never, no.
Do you imagine that's an easy thing to do?
To be honest, I don't know. I think if you change in teams, there's a different set of people to learn, but I'm actually going to run off, John.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'll catch you guys in a bit.
Okay, well, there we go. Piers Pryor is going to go and join our commentator, Lewis McGlade, in just a second. Worth noting that the Chris Dittman Racing cars, as we saw Zach Taylor there, he's alongside Mackenzie Cresswell, who I was hoping to talk about a little bit there, because I feel like Mackenzie's been a very consistent driver. He's maybe just not qualifying as high up as he wants to, but I feel like he's going to be one of those drivers that perhaps if he comes back next year, or maybe in the last round at Donington, I reckon we might see him really push on and be much higher up the grid, and hopefully in the points as well. And Chris Dittman Racing obviously running 3 cars alongside Brandon Loxley as well. I think it's the only team now running 3 cars, so a lot of data there, as Callum was telling us, so that's a big plus for that team. So expect Chris Dittman to really start making some good performances. But we can see now the cars going out behind us. The stewards doing the marshals, of course, doing a fantastic job as always, making sure everyone's nice and safe. As we see the last few cars here, Nick Jilk's going out here, Mikkel Grundvig's going to take up the back of the grid on our left here in just a second. And all the cars are going back out. So I will hand over to Piers Pryor, who's going to be alongside our main commentator, Lewis McGlade.
Cheers, John, as we head back into the lovely sunshine here in West Kingsdown in Kent. It's absolutely beautiful this morning. There is Tom Leben, who gets to start from pole position this time. Of course, he did have the fastest lap set in qualifying, but a grid penalty in the first race after breaching yellow flag infringement back in Silverstone gave him a 5-place grid penalty to drop him a little bit further down the order. Luke Browning closed in on his championship rival yesterday, and there is the championship leader in Joel Granfors. What can he do from third? He had a poor start yesterday, and that was the big decider really when it came to that championship battle yesterday, and then didn't really have the pace to keep up with Luke Browning. Needs to sort that out. Starting in 3rd position, it really is on the flat bit. We've spoken before about how the grid is at Brands Hatch. It's position 1, position 2, you're heading slightly uphill. 3 and 4, you're kind of on the flat, and those behind, you're slightly downhill. Keep an eye on that number 27 Elite Motorsports car that starts from 5th. Yesterday, John Bennett had an absolutely class start, getting up in the 2nd position, lost it pretty quickly, unfortunately. We won't talk about that. He said he was goated for the first 5 seconds of the race, and afterwards he was boated, and so unfortunately went backwards just a touch. Still got a 4th place finish, which is a great result, but still that first podium eludes him. You can see coming through shot now, we've got Chris Dulu, we've got Max Esterson, Headley, and there's Mackenzie Cresswell, who had some issues yesterday, had a spin very early on the race. Of course, we did hear John Jackson speaking about him. Keep an eye as to what Mackenzie Cresswell could do, because he does have some decent pace around here and has struggled in the last few races of the championship by not really receiving the kind of results that he expected or really wanted. We'll take a look at the starting grid for round 20 of the season, and we'll see that Tom Levin has returned his way to pole position. Of course, he had the fastest lap, but now he gets to start from P1. It's alongside yesterday's race winner in Matthew Rees for JHR Developments. Behind, it's the race for the title in 3rd and 4th, Yoel Grandforce and Luke Browning, the top 2 in the championship. Grandforce leading by 6.5 points from Luke Browning in 4th position. In 5th place, we've got John Bennett and Alex Connor. Great qualifyings from the pair of these in the first 2 races. And again, that great start yesterday from John Bennett. Behind that, we've got Bryce Aaron, who's had a superb performance here at Brands Hatch, alongside Javier Segura, who was a retirement yesterday after going wide up to Sheen Curve. Dave Morales and Nico Christodoulou round out the top 10. Christodoulou had some great pace inside the top 5 yesterday. Max Esterson in that battle for the top 3 in the championship. He's alongside James Headley for JHR Developments in 12th position. Mackenzie Cresswell and Roberto Faria. Not a great day for Carlin. They've got a couple of cars that are further down the order. Of course, we'll catch up with one of them in a second as we get to Tommy Smith and Zach Taylor. Of course, jumping in for Chris Dittman Racing in 16th position. Cian Shields in 17th, and Marcus Black for Douglas Motorsport start from 18th position. In 19th, we've got Brandon Oxley and Nick Gilks in 20th, the last set representative lap times within the qualifying session. And then we get to the final 2. Callum Voisin did a great job yesterday, plus 13 through the race, and Mikael Grundtvig alongside in 22nd. They'll be starting from the back all the way through the race. I am joined in the commentary booth now by Mr. Piers Pryor himself, as well get themselves onto the grid. We know what the start is like around here. The starting grid, very, very difficult, uphill, downhill, kind of all over the place. It's almost a little bit of luck where you start almost.
Quite unique starting grid here, with the back half or back 2/3 of the grid being downhill, then third and 4th place are basically level, and then the front 2 rows are up, or the front row is then uphill very slightly. So a lot of the drivers will have to be holding the car on the brakes while they're also matching the revs and finding the bind point on the clutch. There's a lot going on at the start, which is why maybe here we see slightly more discrepancies in the starts. Also, you'll notice that some of the drivers on the right-hand side point aggressively down towards the inside wall, and that's because the track slopes inwards. So if you point downwards, you're going to get less rear wheel spin, or that is the theory anyway.
Well, I mean, I will say, I don't I normally say about how good your running is. You've done a great job to get from the assembly area. It's down a couple of steps, up 3, 4, 5 flights of steps. It just keeps going up to the commentary room. Good effort.
It's a lot of steps.
We'll get ready for round 20. Just 5 races left to go in 2022. Tom Levin starts from pole position, looking for another win in the GB3 Championship, but he's got Matthew Rees, our newest winner, alongside in the front row, and the championship rivals behind. We'll get ready to get underway here at Brands Hatch with Tom Levin in control. We are underway once again. Great start. Look at that from David Morales in the number 77 black car in the background. Super start from him. It's a better launch. Look, Luke Browning's going backwards. John Bennett's got to the inside of him coming into turn 4, but look at how much Luke Browning sent that in the first corner, all the way around the outside of Yoel Grandforce. He's sending it in once again as Matthew Rees is trying to attack for the race lead. Tom Levin sent it in quite deep, coming up to Druids, racing down the hill. Levin's under attack. In the background is the battle for the 2 championship rivals, and that's a bit of a slow exit from Matthew Rees.
There was contact between Matthew Rees and the back of Tom Levin's car. We've got 3 wide.
Oh my goodness, 3 wide. Matthew Rees on the inside. Luke Browning trying to get it around the outside. Yoel Grandforce has to back out as we head up onto the Grand Prix loop. Luke Browning with a super start once again to the inside of Matthew Rees as they head down the hill and back up towards Hawthorns. Matthew Rees is going backwards, 1 position, 2 positions. A little bit of a look down the inside from Bryce Aaron as well, trying to get his move done on John Bennett, who loses out to Alex Connor.
Alex Connor, great move going in the outside, going to Hawthorns corner. There's been a lot of movement this race. It's all started, I believe, from Yoel Grandforce having a poor getaway at the line. Rees going the inside of Sheen.
Oh my goodness, what a send from Matthew Rees. Keeps it on the road as well. Yo Granville's, we saw a little bit of pace struggle from him yesterday. We're seeing very similar once again around the outside as well. Was that Javier Segura, I think, trying to get around the outside, coming through Sterling? That certainly was on Nico Christodoulou. Got the inside coming down into Clark Curve as they race their way around. Roberto Farrier also gets through on Nico Christodoulou. Over the line for the first lap of the race. Tom Levin leads from Luke Browning, from Matthew Rees. Oh, look at this as well. The two Carlin teammates, Javier Segura going side by side as they head down towards the first corner at Paddock Hill.
Nearly a touch there between two cars behind. I believe that is James Headley, and I couldn't see who it was. Oh, Farrier on the inside of his teammate. They touch again.
Oh my goodness, the Carlin teammates don't give themselves an inch. Look at this as well. Is that Tommy Smith trying to get around the outside? Once again, the two Carlin cars go side by side. The number 16 gets down the inside of James Headley. This is absolutely crazy start to the race. Nico Christodoulou back on the attack. Mackenzie Cresswell with James Headley going side by side. Headley loses out one position, and now a second, maybe even a third as well, because coming up as well, another one coming through, Nico Christodoulou on the outside of Farrier.
Farrier looked at the inside of his teammate Javier Segura into the Graham Hill bend, pulled out very late, which then left him vulnerable on the exit, which is why Christodoulou is now fighting him going into the middle sector of the lap.
Nick Gilks getting into elbows as well as he's trying to hold off the charge of Callum Voisin, who's picking up another couple of positions on the first lap as he did yesterday, as we'll see them race their way around. It's still going to be Levin leading, but he's being closed in. Tommy Smith defends from Mackenzie Cresswell. Again, tight move. Mackenzie Cresswell drops back a little bit on the start again. He's got good pace. The Chris Dittman racing cars are quick, but he's just not capitalising in the early stages.
Potentially just not quite getting the start he wants, and it means that there's a lot of pressure going throughout the lap. There's been a lot of movement this lap. We actually saw more movement today than we have yesterday, with moves still going on. Javier Segura, look at the inside of Paddock Hill bend. That was a bit of a feint there, but didn't quite pull off, and he's lost a bit of time on the exit, but he's very much putting a lot of pressure on, I believe that is Chris...
Not Morales.
Morales.
One Arden to another. Yeah, we're all right. I mean, again, another crazy start in GB3. We calm things down as we head through to the second lap. Matthew Rees setting the fastest lap over the previous. Of course, he's got the most clean air. He's closing back in on Luke Browning. You can see as they race their way through, they've all kind of calmed down a little bit. Got to say, great start from Alex Connor to get up in the fifth position. Bryce Aaron hanging on to seventh. He's got Dave Morales. Oh, big moment from Javier Segura, wide again. That was a bit sketchy.
I didn't catch the start of that, but I saw him coming off the exit really slowly, so he's going to be under pressure from his teammate Roberto Farrier once again. You can see the difference in those cars. Both blue Carlin cars. The yellow flashes is the one of Javier Segura, with the white flashes being Roberto Farrier, the Sauber Academy supported driver from Brazil.
Yeah, and again, super driver in the most experienced driver on the grid by a long way is Roberto Farrier in his second full season. Of course, he did do half a season back in 2020, if memory serves. But like I say, he's one of the most experienced drivers on the grid. Where we'll see him next year, we don't know. Whether we'll see him doing another season in GB3. I know he's kind of spoken about that before. It'd be unlikely to see him in another season in GB3. But look at this in the background, because there was a little bit, a bit of a squeeze coming down to the final corner. As we'll take a look at a replay as to what happened with Javier Segura. Actually, I think he went wide at Sterling's.
It was a wide. Let's have a look, shall we? So he went in quite hot. He just got on the power a bit earlier, and then he got underneath the rear wing of Morales there, and you can see that forced a bit of understeer, because as soon as you get close to a car like that, even at the fairly low speeds, you lose the front grip, and it's very, very easy to wash the front wide, and then once you get on the curb, you're a passenger, because that plank in the middle of the car underneath gets beached on the curb, and you're just a passenger.
I said Sterling's, I meant Surtees.
Surtees.
We'll get there in the end. Sterling's is obviously the penultimate corner of the track, but yeah, straight back on the attack, right on the rear end of David Morales. This is for 8th position. You see his teammates dropped off a little bit. I've got to say, Javier Segura is looking faster than David Morales at the moment. We know the Ardens are looking pretty quick this weekend. Carlin, who have had some struggles within qualifying, a couple of issues. Roberto Farrier, but I didn't even speak about him. He's done a great job. I think he started in 14th position up to 10th. So making up a lot of ground in the early stages of the race. David Morales, though, right now, you've got someone over the rear end. You're at Brands Hatch. What do you do?
Sorry, I was just worrying because he was literally hanging his wheels over the grass on the entry there. You touch the grass there, you're going in for a big accident. Sorry, I didn't catch your question.
Yeah, how do you keep someone behind around here? Surely it's just, you don't have to defend too much, you just keep on the line. Don't make a mistake.
We spoke briefly to Callum Voisin, I believe, before this. I spoke to him yesterday afternoon, and I asked him, how did you get up in so many places today? And he mentioned that just getting clean, consistent laps and making sure that your exits are strong puts you in a good position to make places. So that is not only your best form of attack, but also your best form of defence. Making sure that you're consistent, not making any mistakes, and getting clean exits. As we see Mackenzie Cresswell looking at the Douglas car of that, Tommy Smith. So there was a side-by-side through turn one, really good racing between those two, leaving each other enough room.
Tommy Smith's pace looking really good this weekend. Of course, normally we see him sort of 15th, 16th, 17th, that kind of area. He's on the cusp of potentially challenging for a top 10. He's just off the rear end of Nico Christodoulou here. This is the battle for 12th place as Mackenzie Cresswell returns his way to 13th where he started. We'll take a look at the race start though, and you can see poor launch from Yoel Granfors. The initial start from Luke Browning wasn't great either, but it was sending it all the way around the outside, which gave Luke Browning back third position. Probably sent it in once again, whilst Matthew Rees was also attacking for the race lead. Again, bold stuff. When you're battling for a championship, not just for a race position, there's even more at stake.
You can see there, Granfors squeezing him on the exit to try and not let him through. And then you can see did you see the contact there with the front of Rees hitting the back of Levin? So that was what caused him to back off at the exit of the corner, and then ultimately leading to him losing 2 positions to both Browning and Granfors. Sorry, I get my syllables mixed up.
You're mixing Browning and Granfors to make Browning. I mean, that's not bad. They're both fighting for the championship. That's essentially what's going on right now.
Although, looking at this, Rees with some excellent pace has caught right up to the back of Luke Browning. And I was speaking to Mike Epps, who's one of his driver coaches for the race, and he said he left a lot on the table in race 1 in terms of pace compared to qualifying, maybe playing it safe, but they've been talking to him and said, look, there's a lot more pace you can carry out some of the back sections of the circuit, and he's obviously using that advice he's got from his driver coaches, and shows the value of having the driver coaches there to sort of hold you to account and responsible for your own performance, because now he's got the pace pretty much of anyone. Is he the fastest? Yeah, still the fastest car on circuit. Yeah,
it was fastest over the previous lap. He closed in on Luke Browning by 2 tenths, and I'd say it's another couple of tenths coming in this lap as well, because he's on the charge. See how much Luke Browning used on the turning up towards Hawthorns. He used all the white line, kind of what we expect from Tom Mills in GB4, all over the track. Matthew Rees not feeling the need to take that many risks right now. He's keeping right up, and like you say, it's more almost waiting for a mistake from Luke Browning, who I'll be sorry, mate, but Luke Browning's not the kind of guy that makes that many mistakes.
Well, touch wood, we don't want to create the commentator's curse, which I know you don't believe in. However, yes, of course, he's going to try and keep the pressure on, get those good exits like Voisin did yesterday. And no, Voisin's still up 5 or 6 positions today from his grid position, so he's doing very well. But we're watching this battle between Rees and Browning. It looks like if he can keep the pressure on, then hopefully we'll see something towards the end of the race. I think it's unlikely that we're going to see this 2 catch Leben too quickly, although they are closing in very slightly, because Leben does have 4 new tyres, whereas the 3 drivers behind all have 2 new tyres, the left-hand side tyres.
Yeah, I did see a couple driving up there with brand new tyres on one side. You can see the gap kind of closing in just a little bit. It's back under a second. Luke Browning did close in 2 tenths, 10.5 of a second on your race here. It's not changing that much between the top 3, but it doesn't need to at this point. We're halfway through the race. We've got plenty more opportunities to attack. There is Callum Voisin, boom, coming through the middle of shot right there. He's made his way past Zach Taylor, so he's in 14th position. He's got 2 seconds up to Mackenzie Cresswell. He is on a charge once again. We look back to Marcus Flack as there was a little bit of a wide run coming out onto the backstretch there out towards Hawthorns.
Yeah, the race just settling in now, so everyone's finding their position. There's still some battles on track which we'd like to watch, like this. This is Max Esterson putting pressure on the Arden car. Oh no, that's the, sorry, my mistake. That is the hill speed car of Nick Gilk. So Nick Gilk's had a good race as well. I think he's up. No, he's pretty much very qualified, but Esterson is probably going to be a bit disappointed with this race. He must have gone down on the first lap without us seeing that, because he qualified much higher than where he is now.
He started in 11th. Nick Gilk started in 20th. He's done a great job to work up a few positions around such a tight circuit. But you're absolutely right. Max Esterson, I was a bit shocked to see him down this far. Again, he's trying to fight for 3rd in a championship. Clearly struggling a little bit around here, dropping back from 11th position down to 18th. That is not how you want to start a race. Not around here, of all saying. At Silverstone, maybe you can bounce back a little bit. Around here, no chance.
Yeah, Max Esterson will be very disappointed with this race. I don't know whether he had a bad start and it was just out of shot when that happened, but he's normally a top 10 driver. He's in and around the top 10, which is proving why he's proven that, because he's always in the fight for 3rd in the championship. Currently in 5th, but not far away, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got 266.5 points. He's only really sort of like 40 or so off of Callum Voisin, who yesterday, super recovery effort. And again, when we speak of the drivers that Callum Voisin's battling for 3rd in the championship, you've got Max Esterson, you've got Roberto Farri. He's not that far behind Roberto Farrier in the race, so he's closing back in. He's got more to gain as well. A couple of bits of side-by-side heading up the hill. I think that might have been a little bit of a look from Mikael Grundtvig, as we can see Callum Voisin here.
Callum Voisin, again, made some more places. He's got some good pace. I'll have a look and see what his last lap times were, because we know from practice and qualifying before he had that incident, he was right up there. So his last lap, where's Voisin? last lap a 19.3. That is actually the second fastest, his fastest lap of the race is a 19.3, which is the second fastest lap. So he's the second fastest driver on circuit, which shows that he's got the pace. He just had that qualifying, which hampered him a lot, and he's starting to put the pressure on Mackenzie. No, that's Brandon Oxley.
No, you're right.
Mackenzie Cresswell, first time round. Sorry, those Chris Littman cars all look very, very similar. Very good in their black, yellow and red liveries, however looking very similar from the front with their all two drivers, Mackenzie Cresswell and Brandon Oxley, both having the darker helmets. Yeah,
no bias, but it's why when it comes to a commentary perspective, Carlin is like #1 for me. Always has been. Like, it's obvious which one I'm looking at. I don't need to. It's like, that's Javier Segura coming through shot there with the yellow highlights, as obvious as possible. Orange highlights, boom, Callum Voisin. Don't need to. I mean, we're dumb in the commentary booth as well, so it does help just a touch. But you can see Callum Voisin's pace absolutely incredible. He was fastest in practice when he had a crash yesterday morning. He was going super fast. He topped the session. Next lap, he binned it. We know he's very fast this weekend. We know he's very, very disappointed. Could have been a weekend to really capitalise and maybe even more in the championship chase, but still, you got to take the ups with the downs.
Saying that, yesterday he did actually extend the gap to his championship rivals incredibly. However, do you want to know a bit of a statsman fact? Ooh. He was the fastest driver on circuit that last lap. Callum Voisin, a 19.2. The leaders, 19.5, 19.4 for Browning, 19.2 as well. 19.6, sorry, for Reese. So he is the fastest man on circuit right now.
Tommy Smith just had a bad exit from Stirling's and he's under a lot of pressure from Mackenzie Cresswell. I think had to lift that a little bit coming into the final corner. So it could be a good opportunity for Callum Voisin to find his way through. 5 laps left to go, 5 more opportunities into all of these corners as they head through Paddock Hill, down back up towards Druids Corner. Is there an issue, an option, something? It was a bit of a look from Callum Voisin, trying to fill the mirrors, trying to distract Mackenzie Cresswell, dragged him offline just a touch, but still no opportunity. It's very, very hard to pass. If you were in Callum Voisin's boots, right now David Morales off the road, coming through Graham Hill. Well, there's a freebie. Tick that one off.
Oh, I hope we get a replay of that, because David Morales was in such a good position. He was very much looking very racy. He was in 8th position, now going to be down behind Voisin in 14th place, my mistake.
Yeah, that's a big moment for Morales, which again, another shame for Arden, who's looked so fast this weekend. They do get one extra car back inside the top 10 though, because of course they've got Alex Connor, who's in 5th. They've now got Chris Dadula, who'll move up into 10th position, but a big shame because they could be looking at all 3. We'll take a look on the replay here and see what happened. Look at the back of shot. He was going off before we even caught him. Understeer, oversteer, what you could call him on that one?
Before we saw the replay, because I actually wasn't looking at that when it came out, but I was looking at the previous lap. He started the lap is 5/10 ahead of Segura and 7/10 behind Aaron. So unless we have any more video evidence that suggests otherwise, I think he might have just used too much road on the entry, maybe dropped a wheel while braking and then just ended up firing off the circuit. So a mistake from David Morales shows how fine the margins are in these cars going so fast.
I've done that one more than once in the sim racing world. Yoel Grandforce currently running in 4th position. Well, this would end quite a streak that Yoel Grandforce is on. He's got 4 consecutive podiums. He had all 3 at Silverstone and obviously started this weekend on the podium in the previous race of the season. Well, he would be losing out that, and I think might be losing the championship lead, because Luke Browning, who's closing in here on Tom Lebben's 2nd position, we're getting word in our ear that Yoel Grandforce will lose the championship lead by 1.5 points, 1.5 points, of course, because the half point that he got earlier on in the season, to Luke Browning.
So that is shown that they've only been 1 position, 2 positions apart the whole weekend, with Browning jumping Granfers in the first race to finish 2nd ahead of Granfers in 3rd. And this race, again, I mentioned it on the grid, Browning is going to be pushing at the start because he wants to get as many cars between him and Granfers as he can, and he's got Reese in that position to extend that gap in this race, which has allowed Browning to then leave this race. If things stay as they are, touch wood, things stay as they are, he will then lead going into the final 4 races of the season, but it's still so close. 1.5 points is absolutely nothing considering it's 35 for a win.
He said touch wood, and I'm pretty sure he touched a plastic table, but we'll not talk about that. I mean, I've got to say, for Luke Browning right now to have this kind of pace, like I said, he would be on 416 points, taking a 1.5 point lead going into the final 4 races of the season. We are on the race towards the checkered flag, ladies and gentlemen, and it has been an incredible season thus far, and I don't think we're getting much let up. Here is Yoel Grandforce. He'll be relinquishing that championship lead. He's looked calm. He's looked like he's been driving within himself. He was a little bit disappointed yesterday, but he looks comfortable. He looks relaxed still. He's confident in that car. He's clearly got a bit of a rhythm. He feels comfortable. Especially at the starts, he shows. He's literally every single start pushing on, going around the outside, putting his
you know, racing on the line, but he's clearly got the confidence to know that he can, you know, push the boat out and try and make those moves without making a mistake, because he's and it's paying off, because he's now putting a car between himself and Granfers and taking the championship lead. But I think it's not worth forgetting Tom Leben. He should have had double pole. He's led this race from the start. He's getting caught ever so slightly towards the end of this race, but potentially just saving his tyres.
This will be his first race win that's not at Silverstone. Of course, he took a race win in the second race of Silverstone, both times we visited there.
Yes.
And so he's looking for his third victory. He's looked incredibly fast this weekend, has Tom Leben, as is the Elite Motorsports duo. Of course, Tom Leben and John Bennett. John Bennett not finishing inside the top 5 at the moment, but there are 2 laps to go, 2 laps to march their way back in. Tommy Smith still hanging on to what is now 11th position of the race. Big moment there. That was quite a sizable one from Mackenzie Cresswell. He managed to catch it though, and so I don't think he's going to be under too much pressure. He's just got to make sure that he hits the apex and runs its way down towards Graham Hillbank, because he might lose out to Callum Voice if he's not careful.
Callum Voice is still being very, very fast in this race, keeping the pressure on Mackenzie Cresswell, which is forcing that mistake. So is Callum Voice going to look for a move into Surtees? Not quite this time. He'll be hoping for a good exit out of here to maybe get slipstream past on the run up to Hawthorns.
Bad exit. It did seem like it was not a great one, because here is Callum Voice, and he is super, super close. He's got to get to the outside. How many times did he make an outside move up to Hawthorns yesterday, though? He did it twice around the outside. He doesn't fancy it, though, in these slick conditions that we've got now. Of course, completely dry out there at Brands Hatch, and so there was no opportunity. He wasn't really alongside enough. And to say, I think that was one of the corners he had an incident in yesterday morning. The fact that he made 2 moves around the outside and is still looking around there, that is one brave kid.
Yeah, he's got some confidence in that Carlin car. He knows that car very well. He's had a lot of, I believe, a lot of testing leading up to the year, which meant he's very comfortable, and he's showing that that's all paying off now. And with the excellent racing and the racecraft, that's something you can't practice in. You can't, you know, get used to in practice, because it's never quite the same. Yeah. Even if you're overtaking cars, you're with cars in practice, it's always different in anger on circuit in a race. And he's shown that he's got that. Once he gets back in a position where he's up to the front end of the grid, where he's probably his pace shows where he should be, because he was potentially favourite for pole before the incident.
I agree. I think he was. But, you know, sometimes, like I say, sometimes you make your own luck, sometimes you don't. On this occasion, I think Callum Voisin definitely made his own luck. But he is still putting on a very good show for himself, for his mechanics, and for all of us at home. Here's Tom Leben, our race leader. We are on the final lap of the race, and I think he's starting to pull a bit of a gap out.
He is ever so slightly pulling a gap. It's been very stable for the last few laps. I think Browning is probably comfortable with second place, and Rees in between him and Granfers. I think Leben's probably just controlling the pace. He's had the pace in qualifying. He's shown he's got the pace in the race. It's a really, really good drive from Leben. He got away at the start and did all he needed to do, and it looks like he's going to go and take his 3rd win of the season, and first not at Silverstone. Yeah,
indeed. He's thrown himself back into the fight for 3rd position in the championship race with just 4 to go after this. Tom Leben comes out across the line to take his 3rd victory of the season. The number 34 on top once again, dragging across the line Luke Browning and Matthew Rees, who set the fastest lap of the race. And then, fair way behind, it's Joel Granfors losing the championship lead. It is potentially a very, very big moment in the championship.
Yeah, only a small swing in points, but they're so close to the front of the championship. Every place matters for both Browning and Granfors for the rest of the season. He'll be probably disappointed with not being on the podium. I'm sure Browning will be very happy with the move around the outside of Druids on lap 1, which gained him that position and then also allowed him to then pull a gap away. So a really interesting race. A lot of the action happening in the first couple of laps. There was a lot of side-by-side action, but all credit to Tom Leben for the Elite Motorsports crew, because that car is looking very good this weekend.
Yeah, looking well in control. Like I say, Elite Motorsports generally look very good. We said before yesterday, John Bennett looked very strong indeed. Ended up finishing himself in 4th position yesterday and 6th position in this race. Still, that elusive podium is not there. He's one of the very few drivers to not get a podium on the grid, is John Bennett actually. We'll take a look at the results though. You can see Tom Leben leading across the line, 7/10 of a second, which was about the gap yesterday. Only it's very tight between the top 3. Leben, Browning and Rees. Rees with his 3rd podium of the season. Another 3rd place finish, of course, taking that victory yesterday. And then Joel Granfors, well, he's been on the podium 4 consecutive times. Well, he's in 4th position for this one. Alex Connor, John Bennett, Bryce, Aaron, Javier Segura, Roberto Farrer inside the top 10 as well. Outside of it though, The recovery drive from Callum Foysen just to 13th position. Big moment in that battle for the top 3 in the championship, though. Max Esterson down in just 18th position in the championship after starting this race in 11th, and then Mikael Grundtvig and Brandon Oxley round out the field. Obviously a fairly dramatic race, but a big one when it comes to the championship challenge. There is Tom Leben, again for the 3rd time a victor in the GB3 Championship of 2022. On all of those occasions, by the way, it's been a race 2 of the weekend, so maybe he's aiming for race 2 at Donington Park as well. It's certainly a driver who's come on strong over the season. Didn't start off the season in the most incredible form at the first round at Alton Park. Found out a little bit of pace in Silverstone, dropped off a little bit, and man, has he come on so strong in the recent past. Again, give a bit of a shout out to Elite Motorsports for actually having 2 very different liveries on that car. It makes it very easy for us to pick them apart. He and John Bennett get along very well, so I'm sure whilst John Bennett might be a little bit frustrated to not be on the podium, he will be happy that at least his teammate has done the work today for the squad to take yet another victory. And again, lots of applause, lots of hugs, lots of photographs being taken. I'm sure all these will appear on social media again. Whilst it's been a bit of a somber weekend, to take something like that away from it, very, very good indeed. You can see as well behind him, you've got Luke Browning, you've got Matthew Rees, who'll be joining them on the podium. Matthew Rees, back-to-back podiums as well. Got to do a lot of work in the 3rd race though, starting further down the order. Let's head down to John Jackson, who'll be catching up with the podium finishers.
Yeah, here we go. Tom Leben celebrating with the family, getting that all-important photo here after his victory. And I'll just go walk in and grab a word. Tom, now, after the disappointment of yesterday where you were on pole position but you dropped back because of what happened at Silverstone, that more than makes up for it.
Yeah, that definitely makes up for it, especially, well, from the decision at Silverstone, making us start 6th yesterday. Struggling with pace as well in the race, which was a bit surprising, to taking the win today with strong pace as well. I managed to fend off Browning from his pressure at the end and yeah, take the win.
You look very, very strong for pace there, and we were saying just before that, you know, if Matthew maybe got you on that first corner, it could have been a different story. We've obviously seen him win a race already this year, but you did well to get into that first corner in first place and just really hold that lead with some very, very good drivers behind you.
Yeah, it's difficult to get off the line from first here. Reece did it very well yesterday, and my start yesterday was not very good, but I worked on it with the data and managed to get off the line well and hold the lead from there, really.
And it's been a decent race so far, race weekend so far for your team, with John starting quite high up as well and doing quite well. So spirits must be really positive at Elite.
Yeah, the morale is definitely up at Elite from Silverstone when we got a win, and now a win here. John's also doing really well this weekend, and he's improving all the time.
Excellent stuff. A great teammate for you, Tom. Congratulations on your win. We'll let you go celebrate with more of your family. Luke Browning here, just doing another interview. We're going to have to bosh him out of the way. Let's have a look. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Well, here we go. Luke Browning's just doing another interview, and we'll stick the microphone in just a second. I can see Luke Browning's dad, who we spoke to yesterday, just out of shot, having a good time. Here we go. And we'll go with Matthew just while Luke's there. Now, obviously, it's been a good weekend for you. That's your second podium. How do you feel that race went? I mean, I know you'll be disappointed to have dropped back, but still a podium.
It's a good result nonetheless. P3 is obviously not where we wanted to end up, but it's a good. Obviously, we're quite happy with how that is. Sorry about that. Just a few mistakes here and there on the first lap just cost us maybe a chance at it, but we live and learn. Hopefully, we'll learn from that. We won't make the same mistakes again, and use the experience that we have now for race 3.
Now, we chatted to Callan just before. Did you guys celebrate last night, or was it more of a looking back and just keeping going this weekend?
I mean, obviously we're quite happy with the result, but obviously there's still 2 races of a weekend, so there's some celebrations, but keep it honest, should we say, and just make sure we're focused for today.
Excellent stuff, Matthew. We're going to let you carry on and get on that podium for third. Now we can chat to Luke Browning. Sorry, Luke, someone there got you before me, which is not what I like to say, but it's fine. Now, at the moment, you are, if nothing changes, there's provisional things at the moment, but you're 2 points in the lead of the championship, so that's where you want to be.
Amazing, yeah. We've got the championship lead back. Yeah, what a race. But, yeah, them first couple of corners were a little bit of chaos. But yeah, I think I saw a gap in clean air and just had to go for it, you know. It's got to them last 2 rounds, last two rounds of the season, and it's crunch time. So
it is getting there, and you must be quite pleased that you had Matthew Rees in between you and Jarl.
Well, yeah, it's I'm not sure how Matt got past or whatever, but obviously that helps a little bit with my championship. But yeah, I'm sure everyone around drove a great race, and it was yeah, I think it was super competitive out there, especially around the back. But yeah, I mean, big congrats to Tom. I think it's the second win, so yeah, well done.
I've got to ask you this question just before I let you go to the podium. You know, it's a reverse grid race, so anything can happen there. Going into that final race weekend at Donington, do you want to be in the lead or do you want to be chasing?
I want to be in the lead. Yeah, highest points gap I can have, the better. You know, and yeah, we've managed to regain it. Hopefully, stay clean and get through as many as possible in this reverse grid race. But yeah, I think it paid off so far in the just driving like I am so far in the last 2 rounds, so the last 2 races. So yeah, I'm going to have to continue that for the last one.
You are indeed. Excellent stuff. Get to the podium. Luke Browning with High Tech finishing second, and he is provisionally the new championship leader by 2 points. Me and Piers will analyse that in just a second, but the drivers are heading up to the podium, so I'll head back. I'll throw back to our commentator Lewis McGlade to talk you through the podium.
I can have the commentary booth if you want. It's a bit of a track though. Cheers to John Jackson, of course. Points at Luke Browning will have 1.5 clear of Yoel Granfors, seeing that he's very happy with that, naturally, as you should be after taking over the championship lead. Yet another podium, his second consecutive one here at Brands Hatch. Still not taking another win since his double win at Spa. He's taken his 5 wins in the championship thus far, as they'll climb the stairs up. Ignore about the feed, don't worry about that. I'll see a little bit of a clash as we rise our way up the stairs and get ready to see them out on the podium. I want to speak about the battle for third position in the championship though. We've spoken ad nauseum about the championship lead. The battle for third, Callum Voisin has 312 points after that race, and less than 20 behind Tom Leben. He is on the charge. He is looking to take that fight to Callum Voisin for third in the championship. It's kind of, you know, everyone, if you can't win the championship, you want to be the best of the rest, and third position will indeed be that. It's becoming a bit of a tight fight though. Matthew Rees obviously throwing his name into the ring for that after a couple of podiums as well, a first and a third. And hey, even at this point, maybe a little bit too far behind, about 80 points back. John Bennett, who's finding more and more pace. I'd say it's probably a bit of a long shot for him to finish third, but certainly a top 5 is on the cards. He's only just off the rear end of Max Esterson, who's dropped back a lot in the championship chase for the top 3 with a 10th and an 18th this round. So it's been very up and down for some of our protagonists for that third place fight, and that one's going to be a very, very hard battle to keep track of, with so many moving parts in it, so many drivers, and so much drama indeed to be dished out. Of course, we'll keep you up to date on all of that as the rounds run on. We've just got 4 more races after this. We've ticked off 20 as we'll get ready to see them out onto the podium. In third place, it should be Matthew Rees after his second podium of the Brands Hatch weekend, and of course his third podium of the season after taking that fantastic victory yesterday. Luke Browning, our new championship leader, to come out and to finish in second position for the 5th time in 2022, to join his 5 victories as well. He's finished on the podium once more than that with a 3rd place finish at Silverstone. And then Tom Leben taking victory once again. We've seen him on the podium 4 times this season. A 3rd place finish at the first race of Silverstone. 2 wins at Silverstone after that. Of course, one in the first meeting at Silverstone, one in the second meeting of Silverstone, and then a 3rd victory here. Another win for Tom Leben. Again, trying to fight now for 3rd position in the championship. The next race, though, with that reverse grid, he's going to have to fight his way from the back alongside his championship rival, or 3rd position of the championship rival being Callum Voisin, who now very much knows how to overtake around here, receiving the final few photographs from Tom Leben, and he'll depart the podium and focus on a race a bit later on this afternoon where everything will be up in the air. It's race 3s are crazy at the best of times. The closer we get to the end of the championship, the more crazy they are. We'll head down to John Jackson though.
Thanks, Lewis. I'm here with the team principal of Elite Motorsports, Eddie Ives, and I mean, Tom did incredibly well at Silverstone with those 2 wins and a 3rd win now, and looked very, very strong all weekend. And really, if he hadn't been for that grid penalty, he probably could have got a win yesterday.
Yeah, no, I mean, he had a fabulous qualifying print on double pole. And yeah, it was just a big shame that he had the grid penalty carried over from Silverstone, which hampered us yesterday. But look, he's made up for it there, and yeah, pole tonight's win, so over the moon for him.
It's a strong weekend overall for Elite as well, with John being really fast in practice and qualifying as well, and he's right up there. Was it 4th place yesterday and a strong race again today? So you're pretty happy with that?
Well, look, we're only running 2 cars in GB3 at the moment, and they're both inside top 6 pretty much all the time. So yeah, we're over the moon. I think I can only thank my team for putting it all together and doing a really good job and fighting with the big boys.
Now we've got GB4 coming up in not too many minutes, actually, kind of back to back here, and Jack Sherwood's been doing really well. I mean, you've got a really good crop of young drivers here.
Yeah, Jack had a fabulous race yesterday in the damp. I think that was one of the most exciting races we've seen in a long time. And yeah, hoping to have a few more at Donington as well. So yeah, drivers keep coming through Elite, and to be fair, it's good to see them throughout the world. We got Harry King on pole of Porsche Super Cup this weekend, who raced for us for 4 years. And yeah, it's good to see our drivers doing well throughout.
Excellent stuff. Well, we're going to let you go and celebrate with Tom. We're going to let you go and get ready for the GB4 race, which is coming up. Eddie Ives from Elite Motorsports, thank you very much for chatting to us. Appreciate it. So that was good. I'm not entirely sure how long we've got until the GB4 race, because these are back-to-back. There's a race in between here going on. But that was another exciting, basically, just like the best drivers, or I mean, there wasn't a lot of overtaking other than Luke making it with 2 places, but those young drivers doing exceptionally well. And again, Callum Voisin making up places, and I saw Nick Jilks made up some places as well, which would be good for Nick. We were talking about Nick earlier, very disappointed to have given that 5 grid penalty in the last race. Just nice to see him making some places up as well. Was there another driver that stood out to you during the commentary there that was doing particularly well? The look on your face, so, I put you on the spot there, because it's just that everyone was fantastic.
There's a lot going on there, of course. So we saw at the start there was a bit of jostling at the front. We saw Reese actually getting into the back of Leben, a small amount of contact, which then hampered him and meant he went back into 4th and made a great move on Granfers to get back on the podium. Luke Browning ran the outside of Granfers. A decisive championship manoeuvre. Could be very important coming into the final round, with that now leading the championship. So all to play for in the final race.
Excellent stuff. Well, as I said, that race is back to back with the next GB4 race. So we're going to take a break of approximately 30 seconds, and then we'll be back with the first race of the day, the second race of the weekend in the GB4 Championship. And as if by magic, Piers, we're back for the GB4 Championship. That was a very quick turnaround there. Now, yesterday we saw an exceptional race. A lot of it was under the safety car, which was a little bit crazy, and we thought, oh, maybe it's not going to be the most exciting race. And then we saw some of the most fantastic racing from 3 young drivers towards the end there, with over, 4 or 5 laps.
That was an incredible race yesterday. We've seen it so many times this year, the GB4 races. They're amazing. You can't call what's going to happen. It's unpredictable. There's drivers going forwards and backwards. We saw 1 lap yesterday. I think there was 5 changes of position in the top 3. So amazing to see. Hoping for more of the same today. It looks unlikely that we're going to have any more rain showers today, because it's a very nice sort of a late summer's day here in Brands Hatch in Kent. But yeah, we're looking forward to a good race with Nicholas Taylor once again on pole position.
Absolutely. Well, Nicholas Taylor didn't finish the race yesterday. He was very, very disappointed. We actually caught up with him later on while we were having food in the evening. I think he calmed down by then, and he's very, very focused today. So let's remind ourselves what happened yesterday as Nicholas Taylor, the championship leader, crashed out, and we saw some fantastic racing in the GB4 Championship.
A dramatic first race of the weekend would see Nick Taylor starting from pole position in GB4. A bad start from Tom Mills from 3rd position on the grid. He dropped back behind Max Maserati and nearly into the clutches of Jack Sherwood, who'd marched his way forward. Jess Edgar looking extremely fast on the race start. Jarrell Bursky nearly taking over the race lead. Big moment for Tom Mills, going wide through Sheen Curve. He'd bring it back on the road just ahead of the number 78 Elite Motorsports car of Jack Sherwood. And Nick Taylor was leading the way before a little bit of rain came down, and unfortunately he was caught out from it coming through the first corner at Paddock Hill into the barrier. A couple of moments from those behind, but a big one for Nick Taylor, your championship leader, into the barrier and out of the race, and his main championship rival would come through to take fourth. The battle was back on after a prolonged safety car. Jared Wilburski holding on to the race lead, but Jack Sherwood was on the charge trying to split apart the Kevin Mills racing cars. He was looking to the inside, took over the race lead with a super move around the outside of Graham Hill. Jared Wilburski sent it straight back into the inside, trying to grab over the race lead. Big moment for Jack Sherwood, went out wide. It would delay him on the run up towards Hawthorns, and that would be Tom Mills taking over the race lead ahead of Jack Sherwood and Jared Wilburski. Tom Mills' first win in GB4.
So that was the race yesterday, and I'm now joined by a very casual Max Maserati just before he gets into his car. And yesterday, I don't think you'd normally be very happy because you came fourth and, you know, you want to be up there on the podium. However, because Nick Taylor, as we just saw there, crashed out when that precipitation came down and hit the track, you're actually now the joint championship leader going into this second race this morning. So I can see the smile on your face. You must be very happy.
Yeah, it was like weirdly bittersweet because Nick obviously had the off, and then pulled down with rain and the safety car came out, and I thought it was actually going to red flag it because it was raining so much and we were all on dry tyres. But then the rain stopped, and next thing I knew we were restarting, but you know, around the back it was still so wet, which made it so exciting. And it was quite hard because in my mind I really wanted to like go with them and be attacking and like get really into that really great fight. But I was thinking like, oh God, you know, got to think about the long game here. There's no point getting involved and then I have enough myself, and then everything we lost at Silverstone I was about to make back again. So it was like, you know, they wrote "think" on my pit board as I went by, because just had to keep my calm and go, no, you know, this is good enough, get the points, move on to today. You know, at the end of the day, it all comes down to the last rounds, I think. So it's just about keeping ourselves in the fight to them.
And that's the thing we've been saying all year about you being very consistent. Nick Taylor has won a lot of races, but you know, he has had a lot of races where he's not finished, and that's where you've continued to pick up the points, which has put you up there. Now, I believe that you're being supported by not just your dad, who's here all the time as well, but someone else.
Yeah, my nan's here this weekend. She's great. It's her favourite circuit at Brands. She always has a little spot that she likes to sit around Paddock Hill Bend and watch all the racing. She watched my dad back here in like the early 80s and stuff, so it's good that she now gets to. She just loves it. She loves coming down and watching and stuff. So it'll be really good fun. I just can't wait to get started. It's going to be really exciting.
Right, we're going to let you go and get in the car now. Max Maserati, the joint championship leader going into this race. And yesterday, ahead of you, we saw some exceptional racing after that safety car. And Piers is catching up with one of those guys, Jack Sherwood, now.
So we are here at the Elite Garage, as you can see, but unfortunately Jack Sherwood is in a briefing at the moment, so we can't grab him. But why don't we just have a look at the standings while we're here? So after that dramatic race yesterday when Nicholas Taylor made that unfortunate error and the rain came down, he's now level on points with Max Maserati on 415. Then we've got Jared Wilburski is now in third place, 366 points, closely followed on 351 by Tom Mills, his teammate. And then the person we were hoping to catch up with, unfortunately not now, maybe later, Jack Sherwood is then in fifth place on 329, and that's only 2 points ahead of Megan Gilks. So very, very close. Looking forward to seeing how the races go today. Maybe some more dramatic racing. But let's have a look on board the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit in one of these GB4 cars. Here we ride on board Nicholas Taylor, our championship leader and winner of the George Russell Pole Position Cup. Brands Hatch GP circuit, what a circuit it is. The world famous Paddock Hill Bend, dropping downhill, 1 and 3 drop down. Car bottoms out heavily at the bottom. We then move into Druids Corner, braking nice and straight over the crest. Try not to lock a wheel there. Then we go downhill from Druids to Graham Hill. Keep it right quickly to open up the entry. Use all the track on the right hand side. Don't run wide on exit. There is a pressure sensor there. If you run wide, a photo will be taken and sent to the stewards. So we go left now onto the Grand Prix loop through Surtees Corner. Again, a lot of elevation change through here, going uphill at the exit. Not too much curve because the car will bottom out once again. Now a bit of a breather down Pilgrim's Drop under the bridge with the Hawthorns Corner, which is so much commitment into here. Barely a break. I think that's just a lift there. So fast through there, and again, no margin for error on the exit. We then have Westfield, which is a double right-hander. So first apex there, out to the curb, don't run too wide, a second kink there. We then go down and then up towards Sheen Curb. Full commitment, completely blind. Use the curb on the right-hand side, no curb on the exit, so don't touch that grass. We then have Sterling's, a banked left-hand corner. Again, don't go wide on the exit because there's no margin for error. And now the last corner, Clark Curve. So fast, so much commitment. Track falls away on the exit, so don't run wide. A little bit of a wobble there, but kept it nice and clean, and pole position for Nicholas Taylor in race 1. a great lap, and we're looking forward to some great racing.
Well, can you believe it's been 5 weeks since we last raced at Silverstone, and I know the drivers have been taking a break, and a lot of drivers have been practicing on the sim here at Brands Hatch. And I know that Chloe Grant's been up to something a little bit extra special, so I need to talk about your time in France, Chloe.
Yeah, so I was in France at Paul Ricard's race circuit. It was for the shootout for the FIA Girls on Track. There was 6 of us for the seniors and 8 of us for the juniors, and 4 for each class went through to the final, and the finals in November in Maranello in Italy. So it's going to be very exciting, and it was a really tough week, you know, 5 days straight, 7 AM to 7 PM. The only break you got was lunch. It was really tough. I was shattered all the way home. But it was obviously very worth it, because I managed to get through to the final and gave it my absolute all, and I'm not going to stop.
Well, that's incredible. First of all, well done. Is this an international thing, or is it just UK-based drivers?
It's an international. It's an international competition, yes. So there's me, who's gone through to the final, another Brit, Chloe Chong, Oriella Nobels, who races Brazilian F4, and Alice Buckley, who's Australian.
So you go back in November, and it's just as strenuous. Have they told you much about what's going to happen in that final round?
All we know so far is that it's another 5 days, you know, another 5 days of hard work. We're at the Ferrari Driver Academy, so I think it will be a lot harder, you know, physically, which is good though. You need to be put through our limits. We need to be tested to see what our max is, and we've been told that we're driving the new F4 car, so that'll be really exciting. I'm really excited to drive it.
They really will. And finally, I mean, you remind me what the prize is at stake.
The prize is Italian F4, and you become a part of the Ferrari Driver Academy.
It's absolutely incredible. We could have a GB4 driver becoming a Ferrari Academy driver, which I think is incredible. Now, I'm going to let you go and get prepared for this race, because I mean, you know, this is part of your training that you were talking about there. We're not at Maranello, we're here at Brands Hatch, so while Chloe gets ready for this upcoming race, let's take a look at the track here.
Well, to West Kingsdown in Kent we head, and to Brands Hatch for the penultimate race weekend of the season. What a fantastic circuit. It's such a historic one, having been run in the Indy layout since the early 30s. It's been run time and time again, backwards, forwards, when it was dirt. It's been an incredible venue for motorsport inside the United Kingdom, with the Grand Prix loop, which will be running this weekend. It is one for the brave. So many great corners around here when you come through Paddock Hill up towards Druids. That entire Grand Prix loop with Hawthorns, Westfield and Sheen Curve up towards Stirlings. It is a track which requires bravery, it requires commitment, and it requires absolutely no fear.
Yeah, so this is an historic track. There's often Spitfires, actually. I think we had yesterday a few Spitfires flying over here in Kent. So, I mean, it's kind of like what they're known for, isn't it? And it's a really nice location. And I want you, Piers, just to talk through the differences in the track here, because we're at the point here where the GP track and the Indy track kind of change. So if you can just talk us through.
Well, I'm not sure if Ben can see, actually. Whoa, getting run over by Nicholas Taylor, our championship leader. You can see in the background here, we've got the GP circuit with the previous race going up and onto the Grand Prix loop, which we go down Pilgrim's Drop and then round the back of the circuit. Now, that is, we use that this weekend, and we're very lucky to have that, because they only open that a few times a year because of the noise of the residents, because it goes out quite close to some houses. But normally, most other series, and when we come to Brands Hatch, it's largely on the Indy circuit, which goes right here and then joins in that last corner. Now, that's where we were testing on Friday. So the drivers on Friday were using the Indy circuit, which basically means there's only 2 real corners that are identical, which is Druids up at the hairpin at turn 2, and then Graham Hill, because the rest of the circuit, this corner's not used the same, and then also Paddock Hill, you arrive at a very different speed off the Indy circuit than you do off the Grand Prix circuit, much faster off the Grand Prix circuit, because that corner here is only a 90 right, basically, on the Grand Prix loop, whereas it's almost a hairpin off the Indy circuit.
Excellent. Well, I mean, any time they can get on the track, I guess, is good. And we know that Megan Jilks didn't get a lot of time testing in the track, and actually we're going to chat to Megan a little bit later on. She started a new job with the Aston Martin Formula 1 team, which is very exciting. I've seen her sporting her green Aston Martin outfit, so we'll chat to her before the final race. But I just want to talk to you, first of all, Piers, about Nicholas Taylor. Obviously, yesterday, it's something that Nicholas has done quite a lot this year. He's maybe tried a little bit too hard. I think he was very unlucky yesterday with the rain, but, you know, some races he's not finished, and we were saying to Max Maserati that, you know, Max has been consistent, he's played it a bit more safe, and that is really what's made the difference in terms of Nick being a joint leader alongside Max.
Yeah, so Nicholas Taylor, of course, we saw what happened yesterday. If you did miss the race, then it basically started to rain. Nicholas Taylor pulled a 2-second gap on lap 3 or 4, hit the rain first, pushed a bit too hard, big swap of oversteer, through the gravel into the wall, race over, which then promoted the rest of the grid up, and also promoted Max Maserati, even though he finished first, to joint top in the championship. So we now have joint championship leaders between Max Maserati and Nicholas Taylor. So very interesting. he will be learning from that. He's been pushing hard all season. We know he's had the pace. He's been very racy, come through the grid on a number of occasions, but learning the balance between pushing hard and maybe when to conserve and sort of picking your battles is at heart of all becoming an experienced racing driver. This is again a reminder, it's only first season in car racing, so he's fairly inexperienced, even though he's shown he's got the talent with the speed and the racecraft. That is stuff that he'll be learning, and he's learning in this championship while also doing well, and he'll be hoping to continue that pace and good form he's had this season into the final round of the year, and he'll be hoping to be champion, of course. Yeah. And Max Maserati will be hoping to take that away from him. He's
yeah, he will.
Even earlier in the year, there was concerns that he might not even make the end of the season due to budget, but he's managed to get stuff together to come here and finish the season off, which is great to see, because we want to see a fight right to the wire. And I think everyone in the paddock Max is a very popular. Well, not that Nicholas isn't. Max is a very popular member. He's been around in the paddock for a few years and really deserves the success he's having this year.
He does. Let's walk over and take a look at the cars. It was a little bit of a delay with the cars coming in. We'll start with Nicholas Taylor here, number 66, who starts on pole. I'm going to see if Nicholas Taylor will maybe have a little word with us, because yesterday we actually saw him having some food, and I want to see if Nick will maybe tell us, hey Nick, what's your pre-race fuel? Was it the spaghetti carbonara like last night?
Today?
Yeah, you had it last night.
No, this morning I just had toast, mate.
The what, sorry?
Just toast.
Just toast. That's what fuels you. Okay, well, best of luck, Nick. We're going to leave you to focus on the race. There we go. An absolute scoop, Piers. It wasn't the spaghetti carbonara today like it was last night, just toast, apparently. What? Just before the race, just some toast.
Well, hey, it's fueling.
What would you have before a race?
Depends what's on offer, I suppose.
Banana?
Yeah, actually.
You look like a kind of banana guy.
I actually do quite like banana, so there we go. And we've got the two Kevin Mills racing cars here with their umbrellas on, looking very professional. Trying to keep cool before the race, so it's a bit warm out here when the sun's out, isn't it, John?
It is. It's one of those things we said before, like, one minute we're wearing a t-shirt, the next minute we're wearing a hoodie, then we're wearing a coat when it starts raining, like yesterday. Very good day yesterday for Kevin Mills Racing, you know, having those two cars on the podium. I mean, you know, it's a smaller field in GB4 to GB3. Do you think we're going to see both of those cars on the podium this time?
There's a good chance of it, because these three cars at the front, so Nicholas Taylor for the Fortec in the white and red car, and then the two grey, white and blue cars of Kevin Mills Racing have basically been the quickest three cars this weekend. Jack Sherwood, though, in the previous race, from starting 5th position after a not strong qualifying on his own standards, was very racy yesterday and is looking forward to another podium today if he can get up there. But he has to pass our joint championship leaders to get there, and Max Maserati looking again very cool with his umbrella on, because it is warm in the sun here today. You can see some different tyre strategies here. So on Jack Sherwood's car and Max Maserati's car, they've got two brand new left-hand side tyres, I think, as do both of the Kevin Mills Racing cars. I think it's only Nicholas Taylor that doesn't have two new left-hand side tyres.
It does seem that way, doesn't it? We can see Max. We know Max is very, very cool in the red and white car there. I mean, he's always very cool, isn't he, before a race? And I think, you know, he's never one to get flustered. You know, with Nicholas Taylor there, yeah, we had a chat with him, but sometimes Nick doesn't like to be bothered before the race. We could tell he was in good spirits today. He's feeling positive after yesterday, probably because we did see him having spaghetti carbonara and had a laugh with him last night. But Max Maserati is one of those guys. I mean, like, we talked to him just before, in fact, and I mean, you know, there was like 10 minutes to the race. He's still wearing his normal clothes. He's still got those aviators on. He's still rocking the look. He's still like saying hello to everyone. It's like, hang on a minute. You can see Max's dad, Lee, behind us here. Lee, we're going to get a Max victory today, finally?
We'd like to.
We'd like to. Okay, I know that he's just doing some final preparations there, giving Max some water. But yeah, I was just saying, you know, it's one of those things where he chucks his race suit on at the end, where some drivers I'll see be wearing their race suits all day and they don't really change out of them. I don't know whether it's a superstition thing or just an ease thing, but yeah, Max is straight into those what you'd call civilian clothes as quick as he can, really. Let's move back here. We look like we've got, actually the whole grid is here now, and we've got Logan, Hannah and Jessica Edgar and Chloe Grant and Megan Gilks. And I mentioned before, Megan Gilks hasn't had much time in the car here at the track, so it's probably why she's a bit further down, because Megan is normally a little bit further up the order, isn't she, really, Piers?
Well, we've seen her have very strong qualifying. She set fastest laps before. She's been very successful this year, but unfortunately it shows how intimidating and tricky this circuit is, the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, because she unfortunately wasn't able to test due to her new role at Aston Martin on the full circuit. So her first and only laps before qualifying around the Grand Prix circuit was in her Vauxhall Corsa on the Saturday morning. Only did 3 laps apparently. So she was straight into qualifying, which finding her feet. It's a very difficult track. There's a lot of undulation changes out there. It's very unique. Not much opportunities, as we've mentioned, to drive around this circuit. There's a lot of commitment out the back there as well. The barriers are right there. It's just straight up to grass. stakes are high. I know, of course, a lot of these drivers are on a tight budget. She can't afford effectively to have a big accident right before the first race of the weekend, so she took it slow as she did, but I'm really unfortunate to miss out on the 103% by only 16 thousandths of a second as well, so she'll be starting in the back in race 2.
Just before we start moving, I just want to point out the difference here. You can say, you've mentioned that new tyres. We can see Megan Jokes got new tyres on the left-hand side of her car. Now, Ben, the cameraman, if you can just have a look at the left-hand side of Chloe Grant's tyre here, this is the complete difference. I mean, this tyre here it's not a scrub tyre, it's a used tyre, right?
Well, you can see that on the left-hand side of what you saw a moment ago, Megan Jokes had a brand new on the left, whereas the Graham Brunson cars have got brand new on the right, and then the used tyre on the left-hand side. So different tyre strategies going on there. And you can see the difference. So when the brand new tyres, they're very smooth, of course, coming straight out of the moulds, whereas once they go around the track, especially after the race, they pick up different bits of rubber and dirt and stuff, which will clear off quite quickly, but the tyres are much faster when they're brand new. You've got a lot more grip, you've got a lot more overall performance out of a brand new tyre.
Yeah, it's a huge difference there if you've never seen these up close and personal before. And obviously, if you are watching this at home now and you fancy coming down, it's a really good experience coming to one of these race weekends here. We're not just got the GB3 and the GB4 Championship, loads of other races going on. I mean, there's a bit of silence on the track now, but for most of the day, there's only, there's 10-minute periods where there's no racing. And, if you get the right pass, you can come down and you can chat to these drivers. You can come and take a look at the cars when they're in the paddocks. And I know a lot of the drivers do a lot of, their meet and greets. And I know that especially Laser Tools, Graham Brunson Racing with Laser Tools do like signing sessions, and it's really nice to see that the fans can get to know the drivers, and it's very accessible. So if you're sitting at home wondering, I've never been to a race before, I would highly recommend it. And tickets are always fairly reasonable as well, aren't they?
It's very accessible because I believe in a GB3 and GB4, once you're in the gates, the main gates, you pretty much have open access to the whole circuit, which includes the paddock. So you can go right up close and personal, as close as we are now to these cars. And in the paddock, you can see the teams working on them, the drivers are hanging about. You can get signatures. We have quite a few fans that come and join us who come to quite a few of the rounds and get signatures. They get liveries and merchandise.
Have you done any signatures today?
I am not famous enough for that, John, unfortunately.
Hey, one day, mate, one day. If you were actually a racing driver. No, it's fine, it's fine. I did get a selfie. Someone asked me for a selfie, yeah.
Really?
I think they thought I was someone else. Someone from a late night show in America or something like that. Anyway, it's good. Let's move down, back down the grid. In fact, I think Nick Jokes is around here. We were talking, actually, you can see Megan Jokes here. We were talking about how Megan wasn't there for Nick, but we now see, obviously, with things working out in Megan's favour, it means that her dad, Brent here on the left, who's flown in from Canada, I feel like he might talk to us today. He wouldn't talk to us. Here we go. Hey Brent. Yeah, I was going to say, so yesterday you flew in from Canada to come and watch your kids racing, and today you're feeling good, feeling fresh.
Feeling a lot better, yes. As is Megan, I think. She wasn't feeling great yesterday, but not that she was going to say anything.
No,
yeah, she's feeling a lot better today, so we'll see how it goes.
Do you think that affected her qualifying?
Maybe a little bit. I think as much as anything, she hadn't driven on the track. It's too good a drivers to go out there and expect to go into qualifying not having seen the track and be able to run with them. She's got a bit of work to do, and that's obviously from where she's starting on the grid, but she's feeling a bit feisty this morning.
Good. She's got that spring in her step again. Yep. Quick word on Nick. We were just saying before with the GB3 race, very disappointed, and I know that you've appealed it and it's been rejected. Very disappointed that he's had the grid penalty applied to that third race this weekend.
Yeah, they did say it was to be applied at the next round, which would have been 19, but they've decided to make it for the reverse grid. It's not like he tried to qualify that far back. He gave it everything he could. But you know what? He drove really well in the last race, showed that he can pick up some spots. If he can do that in the one next and gets on the podium, it means that bit more, right? So give him some work to do.
Excellent stuff. It sounds like the cars are ready to go. So Brent, we'll let you go and give your final words of encouragement to your daughter. He's not actually going to do that. He's walking off to chat to someone else. But there we go. Nick Jilks will start in 6th later on in GB3, but for now it's the second round of the weekend here at Brands Hatch, the GB4 Championship. Nicholas Taylor on pole, the championship leader. Can he extend that lead? We'll find out as I hand back to Lewis McGlade, your commentator.
Well, there's certainly going to be some change in the championship today. Someone's going to be taking over the lead in a moment. We just don't know which one it's going to be. They are level on points unless they both retire. We'll certainly see some form of change over it. It's absolute madness. Despite, we've said it time and time again, you only need a couple of cars to make a good race, and we've seen that time and time again in GB4 over 2022. We've only got 9 cars out there, but the race we had yesterday was absolutely breathtaking. A great victory from the driver that's starting in 3rd position directly behind Nicholas Taylor. Obviously, Tom Mills taking that victory ahead of Jack Sherwood, ahead of Jared Burski, his teammate. Nicholas Taylor with a clear view down towards the first corner. You can see Jared Burski here looking for another victory. He's got denied one yesterday. He's got 3 consecutive podiums on the scorecard, though. having 2 victories, of course, this season at Esterson, and then that final race at Oulton Park. He certainly wants to grab a little bit more. He's got his teammate to deal with as well, who, Tom Mills, has been incredible when it comes to some of the overtakes that he's put on. I've got to say, when it comes to overtakes, we said it yesterday and we will say it again, keep your eye on that number 78. Black and yellow of Jack Sherwood, one of the best overtakers in the championship, and obviously had that great streak of podiums earlier on in the season with 5 consecutive podiums. He looks to bounce back to that. Well, there's 5 more races left to go in the season. He took 1 yesterday. Maybe he's aiming for 6 as he marches his way into the battle for 3rd position in the championship. It's going to be an incredibly tight run. We'll have to see. You can see those that have the stickers on. You can see it here on the right-hand side of Logan Hanna's car. We'll discuss a little bit on the tyres a bit later on. But you can see those with the stickers on. Those are brand new tyres. We'll take a look at the grid because Nicholas Taylor starts from pole position once again for the 2nd time this weekend. Jared Wilburski alongside on that front row for Kevin Mills Racing. And then it's the Kevin Mills Racing driver of Tom Mills starting from 3rd. Max Maserati in 4th position. Of course, joint championship leader. 4th is where he finished yesterday. 4th is where he'll want to not finish today. Jack Sherwood in 5th, Logan Hanna in 6th position before we get to Jessica Edgar and Chloe Grant. And unfortunately at the back of the grid it's Megan Gilks, who's just dropping off a little bit in the title fight for 3rd position in the championship, which is presently being held by Jared Wilburski. His teammate Tom Mills just 15 points behind. A little bit further back you've got Jack Sherwood, who's just 2 points clear of Megan Gilks, looking to secure 5th position in the championship a little bit later on. I'll let Piers Pryor, who has joined me in the commentary booth, catch his breath just a touch because he has been a fair run once again. It'll be like this all the way through the weekend. It's a lovely day out there though. It doesn't seem as though there's going to be any issues for Nicholas Taylor, you'd have to hope.
Well, we said that Nicholas Taylor could get away and dominate the last one. He was doing that until the weather intervened. Hopefully today, a bit more predictable weather, he should be absolutely fine. He's got the pace, he's got the confidence, he's learned from yesterday. Although there are 2 Kevin Mills Racing cars hoping to take that win off him.
Very quickly, Logan Hanna and I think both of the Graham Brunton Racing Faber Laser Tool cars have got new tyres on the right-hand side. We know it's more of wear on the left-hand side. We've kind of explained this a couple of times, but anyone new joining us might want to explain why would you change the right-hand side tyres rather than the left?
So, of course, this circuit is a largely clockwise circuit, and actually, of the circuits we visit this year, it is probably one of the circuits that hurts the outside tyres more than the inside, so less even. And that's because we have more right-hand corners than we have left-hand corners. That makes complete sense, especially that middle section. So the middle sector, the GP loop, we go right for Hawthorns, then right for Westfield, then right for Sheen, and all of that just builds heat in the tyre, scrubs the rubber away, which is what wears them down. And a lot of the drivers will be putting new tyres on the right-hand side because it allows them to basically have newer tyres on the right-hand side of the race to bed them in the first race on the right-hand side, and then they can move them across scrubbed with a nice easy run onto the left-hand side for the final race of the weekend. But we shall see if that pays off or not.
Yeah, obviously a lot of strategy going on. The 5-second ball gets held out and we get ready for round 20 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. The lights are on as we get ready to go racing once again. A stall from Logan Hanna though. She's going to drop back to the last position on the grid. Great start though from Nicholas Taylor, who's going to hang on to the race lead from Jared Wilburski, racing their way through Paddock Hill for the first time. All single file, a bit of side-by-side in the background between Megan Gilks, who's already picked up a couple of positions on both of the Graham Brunton Racing cars. And look at Tom Mills straight around the outside of his teammate coming up towards Druids. Bit of contact as Jack Sherwood also. Big contact between the teammates, and that's Tom Mills out onto the sky, out onto the dirt. Max Maserati's going to squeeze his way through and grab a podium, as well as Jack Sherwood is going to try and get around the outside.
Around the outside there was Tom was trying to get around the outside of his teammate, contact in the middle of the corner and contact on the exit. The stewards will be having a look at that because that could potentially... Oh, front right.
He's definitely got a flat.
Front right-hand puncture, and Jessica Edgar just getting caught out there. Sorry, Megan Gilks.
Oh, no, yeah, no, you were. Yeah, it was Megan Gilks. He just got caught out there. He's got to be careful coming up here though, because it's the front right that's gone down. So you pull off to the side of the road. Megan Gilks getting delayed a little bit, finally makes her way through, drags through Logan Hanna as well. That'll be unfortunate to return to the pit lane. And we were speaking about how good Kevin Mills Racing had yesterday. They could ill afford a race result like this when it comes to the championship challenge. They're going to lose out to Hill Speed today on the team's front.
Unfortunately, yes, Kevin Mills Racing, both cars coming together, very hard racing.
Is there a puncture on Megan's car? Because she just lost a position to Logan Hanna as well. Is there more drama at hand? There you go. You can see the front
completely
the
flat.
Front right, yeah, totally flat. It's not delaminated, but it is definitely very flat.
Yeah, that's the contact between Jared Wilburski and his teammate. I think it was probably wheel-to-wheel contact, which just nipped the sidewall of the tyre and then causing the air to go out. But we've got Wilburski still chasing down, and Sherwood chasing and trying to make a move on the outside again on Max Maserati. Run outside. off paddock hill, going for the cutback. That could be an excellent move. Has he got an overlap? Just about. It looks like that's an excellent, perfect example of going wide on the entry, cut back, and then holding Max Maserati wide on the exit as well. And side by side in the background as well as Edgar and Chloe Grant.
Yeah, super drive from Chloe Grant to get through. We've heard about the exploits that Chloe Grant's been doing recently. Now moves up into 5th position. Super stuff, though, from Jack Sherwood. Again, he loves a good move. Here we go into the pit lane. And this is going to be a painful stop. And you can see how unhappy Tom Mills is in the car. He feels like he probably got squeezed off a little bit. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of feistiness behind the scenes after the race.
Yeah, let's have a look at replay there. Here we go. Side by side on the exit of the corner. Waberski just not quite leaving enough space, I don't think, there for Tom Mills. So I'd say the blame lies more on Jared Waberski there, unfortunately. And you can see the puncture already happening there. Sherwood did well to get around the outside there, nearly getting pushed off the circuit. Tom Mills would have known he'd got a puncture by now. And there we go. Yes, Jared knew that Tom was there, so he needs to be leaving at least a car's width to the edge of the track, because you can't just force someone off on the exit like that.
Yeah, they can't just disappear. I know it's the whole, and I've had this discussion in sim racing a lot, and stuff of the, if I've got the racing line and it's my track position, which I've always adamantly suggested is total rubbish. If a car's there, they can't just disappear. If you've got to kind of give a bit of room. I know there's a bit of leeway on it.
We saw it a little bit actually at Zandvoort for the Formula 1 Grand Prix last weekend, when if your car is already there in the braking zone at the apex and the other driver knows you're there, then of course the driver on the inside should leave space. But also you can't just expect to drive around the outside of a corner when a car is already committed to the exit. Yeah. However, at that case, clearly Jared knew that Tom was there, because they had made small contact in the middle of the corner. He was obviously trying to stay ahead of his teammate, because they're racing for themselves as much as they are teammates, and he tried to squeeze him wide and unfortunately just squeezed a bit too much.
Whoa.
We see Chloe Grant with a lunge up the inside of Surtees on Megan.
Max Maserati. What is happening to Max Maserati? He's just been dived down the inside by Chloe Grant.
Yeah,
I thought he was going to be pulling away. I've seen both the hill speeds going a bit slow, and like you say, that's one position dropped, and potentially might be a second one to Jess Edgar. He's going to look to the outside up to Hawthorns. For your joint championship leader, something is going very, very wrong indeed.
Something's definitely wrong with that car. It doesn't seem like it was straight line speed, because he had to go back at Chloe Grant down towards Hawthorn's corner, but it seems like in the middle of the corner he just doesn't quite have the pace. So maybe there's something wrong with the tyre. Has he had contact? Has he got a slow puncture? Maybe there's a bent wishbone or something after going wide to avoid the hampered car of... Whoa!
Logan Hannah, bye-bye.
Very wide on the exit there. She won't be... her tyres will be dirty for a couple of corners now. So let's keep an eye on Max Maserati, because this is not helping his championship, with Taylor now pulling a gap at the lead of the race.
Yeah, this is big for the championship. So I've got to say, by the way, Chloe Grant, super stuff. She's now running in 4th position, looking for the best result of her season. Absolutely superb from Chloe Grant, and I'm not 100% sure as to what's going on. I did notice how he took a little bit, maybe a little bit too much curve. It didn't quite bounce right over the curbs around the back end of the circuit. I mean, could this be something to do with his tyre warm-up process not being quite in? Maybe the car grip's not quite there?
We've seen a couple of times this year that Max potentially gets his tyres off a bit slower than other drivers, but this is way more than that, because in qualifying we were seeing Max is probably half a second quicker at that stage than Chloe Grant, and now he's being dropped by her quite quickly. So unless Chloe's found a really big boost in speed, or Max has got an issue, I can't see that being an issue, because by now we're lap 4, so the tyres should be up to temperature. Let's have a look at the lap time, shall we?
He is 3 seconds slower than Nick Taylor.
That's a definite issue. No, that's a definite issue. He's not 3 seconds off the pace. There's a definite issue with that car. I'm hoping it sorts itself out so Max can maybe salvage some points, because he'll be very disappointed to lose that championship lead, which he's regained in the previous race after Taylor's issue. But Waberski, must say, staying with Taylor now.
Yeah, purple second sector on this lap, only by 1100ths of a second though, so you know, each their 11 thousandths of a second, so each their own on that one. There is a driver with the fastest lap of the race at the moment. That is Jack Sherwood, who's about 3 seconds off of the race lead. Might charge his way back into it. This is going to be a tight fight. Now, Nicholas Taylor, championship lead at the moment. You've got to hang on to every win. I get that. But I wonder if we're gonna, when we're gonna start seeing this sort of newer Nick Taylor, he's learning all the time. Now, could he kind of sit there and maybe back off a little bit? Maybe, obviously, he doesn't know that Max Maserati is having an issue as he's dropped back yet another position. But right now, I wouldn't say the win is paramount for Nick Taylor. A second place and those 29 points, more than good enough.
I would completely agree with you on that, Lewis. However, I know Nicholas Taylor,
yeah,
and I know he's going for that win no matter what happens. I don't think there's anything that's going to get in the way of him trying for that win. I think the team has spoken to him and said, look, you know, you don't need to win every race. However, he knows he doesn't need to, but he wants to.
He wants to. He wants to take so many victories. I think we were talking about the idea of him winning half the races of the season, which is still possible. He's got 8 at the moment. He'd need to win 4 of the next 5, which is a bit of a tall order, but he is very, very good. But like you say, does he need to win all of them? Absolutely not. If he plays the long game, that's what he needs to focus on. That's what Max Maserati's been doing all season, and he's been so good at. Max Maserati, has he been the fastest driver all season? No. I could name 4 other drivers on this grid who have potentially been faster than Max Maserati on most occasions, but he is joint championship leader at the moment.
Always there. It shows the value of just being there, right place, right time. Keeping your nose clean, just getting out there, banging in the results. We've seen, I was jokingly spoken to Lee, his father, a couple of times, and he's saying, could we win the championship with the most 4th places?
Yeah, I mean, there was talk of could he win the championship with no race victories. Yeah, most 4th place would be a very interesting challenge as well. Approaching halfway through this race, we've got 10 minutes and 25 seconds left to go. 6 of the expected 12 laps of this race, and Max Maserati appearing to have still serious problems. He's dropping back on Jess Edgar. This is how he did it. That was very slow at the final corner. That is odd to lose that much speed at the final corner, and you can see he's trying to hang on. He's just not there.
But you see, look, he's still got good straight line speed, which makes me think there might be something to do with the car. But yeah, it's the corner speed, the mid-corner speed in the right-hand corners just doesn't seem to be there. So potentially there might have been a component failure, maybe a roll bar's broken or something like that. Or I don't know. Has there been any contact with Max that you've seen?
Not that I can recall. It might have been on the first lap somewhere. Obviously, it can be a little bit fisticuffs through the middle of it. I mean, the aero-wise, it all looks fine.
It's fine.
There is nothing wrong from a visible bit. Obviously, the suspension on these cars are very, very complicated. And that's, I think, a little knock here or there. Might knock out the steering just a touch. It doesn't look like the steering's knocked out.
No, but the reason I suggest a roll bar is because the car doesn't look like it's sagging. If it was a spring or a mounting point that had broken, the car would be sagging one side or the other or be grounding out. Whereas a roll bar only controls the roll of the vehicle. So basically it stops the vehicle rolling like a truck or a bus going around a corner. It keeps it nice and flat. And if one or the front or the rear breaks, then that means that it affects how the car basically handles in the middle of the corner, because generally you want the car to be nice and flat and stiff in the middle of the corner to allow the weight distribution between the car to be even, and you balance the stiffness of the front and the rear to give you the setup, the oversteer or the understeer that you want. And if one of those breaks, for example, over a curve, which they can happen, or a bump, because he did run wide, didn't he, at the exit of Graham Hill Bend?
Yeah.
So that maybe that bump there broke one of the roll bars. It's just speculation on my part, but that could be something that's going on there, because we haven't seen a straight line issue or any visible issues to do with the aero, so I can't think of what else it could be, unless there's something that I'm sure it will be interesting to hear from Max after this race, because he's not shown the pace that he has shown in practice and qualifying.
Was it Donington race 2 where he struggled kind of inexplicably, like whilst we had, I think it was Alex Walker who won that race, might have been Nick Taylor who won that race, he pulled away by quite a significant margin, and Max Maserati dropped back to 3rd, 4th position and was really struggling on speed. Like the top 3 had pulled out by 10 seconds by that point in the race. I kind of it's got that kind of aura to it. The only thing is now is he might lose out to Logan Hanna. This is for 7th position.
Whoa, Logan Hanna, great move out the inside of the machine. And Max, was he on the grass there? That was close.
I did not expect that.
It's a great move from Logan Hanna, which shows that Max is having to go so slowly into the corners from whatever the reason. We don't know yet, but he's having to go so slowly into the corners that Logan Hanna could overtake in a place that you wouldn't really expect a move normally to happen.
Well, we're seeing, whilst watching this battle go on, we're seeing another position drop there from Max Maserati. We're seeing more time gained between our top lot. Nicholas Taylor's still our race leader. Waberski is closing right in. And still, more fastest laps coming in from Jack Sherwood. We'll take a look at this overtake once again, so keep your eye on the 81 of Max Maserati. He's going to be a little bit wide here, looking to the inside. Logan Hanna completely sent it in. Got to say, great spot from Max Maserati. Yeah. He was a lot slower up there than we would have expected, but he still saw that car coming.
Very good awareness, because you're not expecting a car to come flying up your inside at that point, unless you are, of course, expecting it to happen. Another fastest lap from Jack Sherwood, and he goes purple again in Sector 1 with a 26.9. That gap has come down from 3.1 seconds to... No, hang on, wait.
It's 2.3 to the next
Yes,
car,
sorry,
so
my mistake. It's still come down to the leaders. I'm hoping that he might be able to catch them up, although Nicholas Taylor's pounding in lap times, only a couple of tenths slower, so... unfortunately, unless anything happens in this race with a safety car or similar, then I think the top 3 is pretty much settled, barring any mistakes. But Jack Sherwood showing great pace. He's got new tyres on half this.
Are you expecting mistakes?
I'm not expecting mistakes. These drivers.
Trying to build some
you want something to happen, don't you, Louis?
No, absolutely not. I'm a bit sad that Max Maserati's not quite had the pace. You know me, I love seeing a good championship battle. Unfortunately, it's taken a very big swing. It took a massive swing yesterday. It's going to take a massive swing once again today.
Yes, it is. This championship keeps on giving in terms of drama, because every turn, every round, we're like, oh, it's championship's wide open, or oh no, Nicholas Taylor's running away with it, and then it's wide open again. It's amazing to see, and especially at the start of the year when we had almost like a three-way fight with Alex Walker as well, but unfortunately Alex Walker moving on to different things. So look at these last lap times. 25.5 from Nicholas Taylor in the lead. Then we have a 25.7, Weberski dropping off ever so slightly, and a 25.3 from Sherwood. Again, going another fastest lap of the race. He's pounding those in, and again, another purple first sector.
I mean, just so fast is Jack Sherwood, and knowing how good he is at overtaking him, he even gets a whiff at the rear end of Weberski. You know he's going to go for it. He has been the overtaking master of the championship, I'd argue, thus far. Some of the moves that he's put on, Silverstone, brave stuff.
Yesterday.
Snetterton, brave stuff. Yesterday, some brilliant moves. He loves going around the outside of people. I've noticed that.
I don't think anyone's told him you can actually overtake on the inside under the brakes, which is normally how you get it done. But he's using his initiative, going around the outside a lot of the time, and we've still got 5 minutes 10 seconds to go in this race. At 3 laps, probably go to laps now, but at 3 laps is not going to be quite enough time unless these two, which are getting slightly closer at the front, unless they start scrapping, because that can quite quickly lose you a few seconds. Oh no!
Logan Hanna
in the barrier. Where is that? That is Dingle Dells on the exit of Westfield. So easily done. We've seen that in the GB3 race.
Car? It's in a dangerous spot.
It is.
That's very fast.
Very likely to be safe. Let's have a look, shall we? So she's got on the curb, bottomed out. And then you're a complete passenger now, because you can see how slippery the grass is, and you barely even slow down.
Oh, she does hit the barrier.
Luckily, just only a small touch of the barrier, just the front wing, so hopefully no more damage than that. She should definitely be out for race 3 of the weekend. She's still trying to get herself going. You can hear her trying to get first gear.
They can refire. If the engine has stopped, they can refire it in the car.
They can. Let's listen.
So she might be able to get it
No,
back
we
going
can listen.
again.
But
no safety car yet, so we're staying green.
Maybe they're going to just have a double waved yellow or waved yellow at the exit of the Westfield corner. Again, not really an overtaking opportunity, so it hasn't really been removed. Other though, we saw Logan Hanna actually go up the inside of Max Maserati early on the race. Maserati gained another place from that though.
Yeah, freebie.
Notable.
There is the car stationary as they come through, and you can see at the top of your screen there, coming through Westfield Bend, you've got a marshal waving a flag. They've got to make sure they slow down for that. We know that played an issue in GB3.
Yeah, it definitely did. You need to make sure that you're not speeding under yellow. You're not allowed to set your best sector. You must be in complete control of the vehicle, and no overtaking single file under yellow flag, because of safety reasons, of course. Yeah. If anyone's racing through there and they made the same mistake as Logan Hanna, then they could end up collecting Logan Hanna, and that would be, of course, a very dangerous incident, which is why we have the marshals all around the circuit, the wonderful voluntary marshals who we could not go racing without. So you know, everyone in orange, they're all volunteers, and they do an excellent job to make sure everyone's safe and that the race weekend goes ahead as we all expect it to, and it does almost always.
Yeah, the marshals, the very superior Orange Army, it must be said. They're the ones that are really important to the world of motorsport, and to make sure that we're racing every single weekend. Max Maserati dropping back into the clutches of Gilks now, his teammate. I mean, Gilks is kind of getting up to speed with the weekend. A couple of laps left to go in this race. I mean, there's no team orders there. They're drivers just in the car. They don't have radios or anything like that. And we've seen before, time and time again, they just race each other as hard as they can. Gilks is not going to... If there's a chance for her to pounce, she'll pounce.
Absolutely. She'll pounce on it. She'll probably know there's something wrong with Max with him coming back towards her so fast, because he's had a lot more practice around this circuit, and he's been notably faster just through experience, really, at this circuit, because Max also has raced here in GB3 a couple of years ago, and then also last year as well. So, yeah, he's had the experience and knows the circuit, which is why he was generally faster. This gap at the front is coming down, as we see Nicholas Taylor having a slight slide on the exit sheet. Sterling's. I can't get them. Both S.
There's a lot of... Well, you throw Surtees in there as well. We're in the mix. We're going on to what I believe is the final lap of the race, although I am seeing on the timing screens, we do have 2 minutes 11 seconds. Normally these races are time based on 18 minutes. So I think we might actually have 2 more laps to go in this race, 2 more opportunities.
12 laps though, isn't it?
These are time based. They're 18 minutes, aren't they?
We'll see if the checkered flag comes out at the end of this race. So it's currently Nicholas Taylor who's getting reeled in ever so slightly by Jared Weberski in that Kevin Mills racing car. We're looking at the heel speed fight. There's Logan Hanna, clearly disappointed, but she's good to see her okay. Not a big impact with the barriers. It's a very fast part of the circuit there.
Yes, indeed. We do have it. It is definitely lapped, so don't panic. It's just me losing my mentality. It's all right. But Taylor, though, is hanging on to the race. This is back to the battle for 6th position. Maserati and Gilks extremely close between the two of them. Where do you make a pass around here?
The main overtaking opportunities, turn 1, Paddock Hill, but only if you get a good exit out of the last corner. And then you can overtake into Druids if you get normally have to get an undercut because it's very easy to defend in there. We've seen in the first lap a lot of people try around the outside of Druids. We saw Thomas trying to get around the outside of Oberski, not successful that time, but can be done. We saw in the previous GB3 race that's possible. And then largely that's pretty much the only real overtaking opportunity. You can get a slipstream into Hawthorns, but Hawthorns such a fast corner, very little braking, so you need to get alongside before the corner.
Well, here we go then, out of the final corner, down towards the line. It is instantly bouncing back for Taylor, once again taking a victory, his 9th of the season. He'll come across ahead of Oberski and ahead of Sherwood. He was chased down throughout that race. Sherwood looking incredibly fast, but it's a big day in the championship once again because Taylor's going to pull out a hefty margin on Max Maserati, who's coming down towards the final corner now, still ahead of his teammate Megan Gilks. But as he comes out of the line, I mean, that'll be the most disappointing 6th place finish he's had all season, that is for sure. A big gap in the championship now. Just 6th place for Maserati.
Disappointing, but be interesting to hear, as we've mentioned, what's gone on there. Jack Sherwood fastest lap, so he'll be very happy with that and hopefully taking that forward into the final race. Today, the reverse grid, so he'll be looking forward to make up some places like he did yesterday and also at many races previously this season. I'm looking forward to the final race of the day. I hope you are too, Luke.
It's all right. No, I've been called Lucas before. Don't worry. We'll take it. It's either that, Lulu. I mean, I've been called a whole number of things in my time. And
we digress.
But yes, absolutely. Nicholas Taylor, though, as I say, it's a big moment in the championship. And
results for you there, Lewis.
We'll see the results as we head through into the final 4 races of the season. Taylor taking the top step once again for the 9th time this season, ahead of Oberski and ahead of Sherwood. Chloe Grant, gotta say, super drive. Really got on with it in that race, and she takes 4th position. Jess Edgar in 5th, who's looked great all weekend. I think she'll actually be a bit disappointed to be behind Chloe Grant. Max Maserati, Gilks, Mills and Hannah. Hannah, of course, a retirement from the race. Mills, those issues straight up. And he did message me this morning. I wasn't going to say this on air, but we did have a little bit of a chat this morning with Nick Taylor before we came to the circuit. I said, right, what's the game plan for the day? And he said, win race 2 of the weekend. Boom. Goal achieved and a super performance once again. He really is a superstar for the future. Straight into the in an instant debrief with Ollie Dutton, team manager. There is no let up. Of course, it was a rough moment yesterday, but the support of the team, the support of the family, which always, we've seen his brother and mates and all that are all around. He does drag around quite an entourage to the race circuits, and it helps the mentality to come out and have some support. Sometimes you don't want it. I mean, he was very unhappy yesterday. To give a bit of a handshake to Jack Sherwood as well, who I don't know if Nick Taylor knows how fast Jack Sherwood was in that race, but man, he was super fast. Also over to Oberski, who might have to have a little bit of a chat, obviously into the arms of Dad as well. But yeah, there might have to be a bit of a chat between Oberski and Mills post-race. There's Brandon as well, good mate of his, instantly in with the handshake. And a good little chat and a little debrief as well. We will head down to John to catch up with our podium finishers.
We're here with Nicholas Taylor, looking very calm, I have to say. Another picture for him next to the first board. Very cool. Hey Nick, that's what should have happened yesterday, mate.
Yeah, exactly. The team deserved it. I mean, they deserved it yesterday, so I'm still a bit disappointed, but it was a good win.
Was it the toast that did it?
I don't know. I ate like 20 minutes before the race, so I don't think it really kicked in.
You're going to get the toast after effects now. But in all seriousness, I mean, you needed to get those points after yesterday. Max has finished quite far back, so it gives you that lead again, which I know you want. And I imagine going into the final race weekend at Donington, you probably want to be the leader, not chasing.
Yeah, exactly. It just puts too much pressure if you're chasing. I mean, we should have a bigger buffer, but I think being ahead is what you want.
Now, from what I've seen, a lot of the cars in the second sort of half of the grid don't have a lot of pace here. The guys around you do, in terms of the Kevin Mills Racing and obviously Jack Sherwood as well. you know, how do you feel that reverse grid race is going to go?
I mean, I think we were the only team that ran new tyres on the right, so we're going to have fresher tyres on the left for the last race. Everyone else ran news on the left, so we'll see how it plays out.
Excellent stuff. Nick, we're going to let you go and celebrate with your family. Nicholas Taylor, race winner once again in the GB4 Championship with Fortec. Let's see if we can find Jared Waberski. Jared and his dad just watching some YouTube back, or are you watching the live stream there? What's going on? Just watching the live stream. Look at that. Probably saying hello to friends and family back home in South Africa. Another podium for you. It's turning out to be a good weekend.
Yeah, good podium there, good race. Had a decent start, and then on lap 1, had a little bit of contact with my teammates. I don't know, we'll have to relook at the video and see what happened, but I don't know what happened to him then at the end, so I think he had a puncture or something, so that's not so great for the team. But I think overall as a race, a good race. You know, we're beating Max, P2, a third and a second, so I think overall good weekend so far.
We're just saying to Nicholas Taylor that, you know, other than him, you've had a really good pace as well as Jack Sherwood, so in the reverse grid race, what are you hoping for?
I think it's just make as many places as early as possible. I think all the places will be very early on the first lap. It's so tough to follow and pass around here, so I think the first few corners are going to be very, very crucial in the reverse grid.
Great stuff. I was chatting with your dad just now and he was saying there's a lot of people watching back home, so do you want to maybe say something to everyone watching in South Africa?
Yeah, I just want to say massive thank you to all of you to tune in to watch all my races. You know, all the support is really, really incredible, so thank you all very much.
Jared Oberski, second place today. I'll let you go, Jared. Let's find Jack Sherwood. We're going to have to go for a little walk here. I'm going to walk in between the two cars, speaking with the boss of Fortec, Richard Dutton here, who we saw on the phone yesterday looking cool. Hey, Jack, another day and another podium for you.
Yeah, no, it was a good race. As I said earlier, you know, we got held up a bit by that battle with Max, and then by that time, Waberski and Nick had gone, so I just kind of settled into my own rhythm and tried to put in consistent laps, and I could see on my Delta we were going faster and faster a lot, so you know, that was a confidence booster. But yeah, we'll see where we are for race 3, so with the new tyres and everything, and we'll see how we are. But no, I'm happy with the pace and happy with the car, and it was a good result.
Excellent stuff. Well, we chatted to Eddie Ives earlier, and he was very, very proud of you, and he's very happy with his young drivers this weekend, both in the GB4 and the GB3 Championship. And it's, you know, it's good for the team because the team don't always get the recognition they deserve, right?
100%. You know, the team have put out a mega car all year. You know, there's multiple occasions where we've shown it. You know, Snetterton, we were so fast there, and you know, the car was mega there. And then even, you know, this weekend with Tom, you know, the quali lap he put in, and not just him, but the car being able to, you know, perform that lap was mega. And yeah, I think they're one of the best teams on the grid at the moment.
Nice one, Jack. We'll let you get to the podium. Jack Sherwood there, coming third. So a great weekend for Kevin Mills Racing. Not so great with what happened between Jared and his son, Tom Mills. We'll hopefully catch up with Tom Mills ahead of the final race of the weekend a little bit later on today. But it looks like the drivers are ready to go to the podium. So Lewis McGlade will talk you through it.
And we'll also talk through some of the top stuff in the championship. There's a bit of a freeze frame there for Piers Pryor, who was working out where he was going to go down there. We'll welcome our drivers onto the podium. A big moment for the championship, as we said. We'll update you on that because Nicholas Taylor is leading by 18 points now with a first place finish. Of course, we'll see him on the podium last, but a sixth place finish for Max Maserati. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a moment for him. Sixth place. He's finished most of the races this season. Anyway, let's go here. Of the 20 races that we've had this season so far, Max Maserati has finished in the top 4, because he's never finished 5th place for some reason, but he's in the top 4 in 16 of those. Sorry, he's only missed out on 4 occasions. 3 of those were 6th place finishes, one of them was a 9th place finish. So a big moment for Max Maserati in the championship to lose out. And to be fair, he might even have to look a little bit backwards because Jack Oberski is closing in. He's had another podium here. It's his 4th consecutive podium. The last driver to do consecutive podiums on that kind of scale was Jack Sherwood between Donington Park and Snetterton, with a third, a second, a third, a third and a first. So 3 thirds, a second, and then that victory. Well, to be fair, Oberski's got 3 thirds. He's got a second. Maybe that means that we're going to see a victory out of him as well in that final race at Brands Hatch in the reverse grid race. We'll have to wait and see as we get ready to welcome them out onto the podium. Good to be said as well with Jack Sherwood, who isn't a million miles away from that battle as well in the championship. Of the last 12 races in the season, we've seen him on the podium 8 times. Absolutely incredible, including that 5-podium streak. And he doesn't even know which position to go into on the podium as he takes to 3rd position. Jared Roberski will take over 2nd place on the podium. And for the 9th time this season, we welcome to the top step, it is Nicholas Taylor. After such a dramatic day yesterday, he will take to the top step once more. An incredible form. He will pull out a bit of a championship lead. He's getting bored of these trophies. He took me a photograph of a few of the ones that he's got at home. I mean, he's been building up quite a collection for Fortec. On the team side of things, I don't think they're looking super strong, but still, from a driver's side, they are taking over the top step once again in the championship as they fight their way. Just 4 races after this, round 20 complete here in the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, and 3 very happy people on the podium. 3 people who have been on the podium a few times together so far this season, and in fact they were actually in this order in the first race of Snetterton. Obviously all those photographs to be taken. We'll take a look at the highlights of the race. It was Nicholas Taylor starting from pole position alongside Jared Roberski in that race down towards the first corner. Roberski was on the attack. Max Maserati dropping back a couple of positions as they head through Paddock Hill. Bit of side-by-side between Logan Hanna, who had a bit of a poor launch. Side-by-side between the 2 Kevin Mills Racing teammates. Around the outside, Tom Mills went into a bit of contact with Jared Roberski, and this would cause a front right puncture for Tom Mills. He dropped right the way back as there Max Maserati made his way around the outside. So did Jack Sherwood. Maserati, though, having issues in the race, dropping back 1, 2, 3, 4 positions behind Chloe Grant, behind Jess Edgar, down into the clutches of Logan Hanna and his teammate Megan Jilks as well. Logan Hanna with this super move up the hill towards Sheen Curve, looking to the inside, sends it in, well spotted there from Max Maserati, but then unfortunately later on in the race Logan Hanna had this moment in the final section of the race, losing a front wing with a little bit of contact with the barrier, nearly got it back going again, but a bit of a spin. Nick Taylor, though, who was under a lot of pressure all the way through the race. Jared Roberski was all over the rear end, but did not cave into that pressure in the 66. We've seen it a few times this season. Heads back up to the top with a race victory ahead of Roberski and of Sherwood. It was a super race indeed. John Jackson is in pit lane.
Yeah, we see Nicholas Taylor's car, the Fortec car with the BRDC Rising Star sticker on the front, and he really is a rising star, Nicholas Taylor. He just needs to get that consistency and make sure he finishes the races like we saw yesterday compared to today.
He's got the pace, he's shown that throughout the year, he can overtake, but just making sure the consistency is there and he finishes every race. And he did excellent in that race, he didn't put a foot wrong, did he? So made up for yesterday's mistake. Not
at all. Let's see if we can find someone from Fortec to talk to us. Oh dear, the head honcho. Richard, we was just saying about Nick needing to have the consistency to finish races, you know, and how he maybe pushes a bit harder than he maybe needs to sometimes. Did you give him any advice before that race there? I know obviously we were discussing yesterday, you've been racing at Silverstone yourself, you've got a wealth of knowledge to give him. What have you said to Nick?
I just said to him that you don't have to be a hero and just use your brain. To win the champion, winning races is one thing, but to win championships is another thing, a different mindset. And we just talked it through that you win races as slow as possible, keep the tyres, we've got another race to do with the tyres, and don't push too hard, and you don't need to be a hero. If you want to win the championship, just sort of cool it down a bit.
Excellent words of advice. And in terms of that reverse grid race, I mean, you must be quite confident that Nick can make up some places.
Yeah, I think so. We kept tyres back for the reverse grid race, and yeah, he's got good speed. So yeah, I think he'll come through. And but yeah, Jack's doing a really good job as well, and he's really quick. So yeah, it should be a good race this afternoon.
Well, indeed. We'll be back for that later. Richard Dutton, the head honcho. I'm going to call you head honcho from now on at Fortec. Thank you very much. An excellent racer in his own right as well. Let's see who else we can talk to. Let's try and get a word with Nick's brother, Chris. Hey, Chris, you're live on the live stream. I know you absolutely hate this. We saw you yesterday, and Nick was preparing for the race with some spaghetti carbonara. He told us before the race toast was the secret. I mean, he's a very impressive brother.
He is. He's very impressive. He's leading the championship. What else can you want? Yesterday was a bit unfortunate, but today he bounced back like he always does, you know.
Do you have a prediction for me just before we get run over by his car for the reverse grid race later?
I want to say podium, but I don't want to jinx it. So
don't jinx it. We'll just think podium and not say it. Chris, thank you very much. Chris Taylor, that's Nicholas Taylor's brother. Everyone else is moving on now, Piers. So I think really, other than maybe having a quick word about Max Maserati, struggling for pace, as is Megan. It looks like Hill Speed really not doing well for pace in the GB4 Championship this weekend.
This weekend they've struggled. We've seen they've been excellent in previous rounds at Silverstone. They were really strong, and I just think it's a combination of lack of experience on Megan's part and then potentially an issue again. I'm just looking forward to hearing from Max before the next race to see if there was any issue or if they was just struggling with tyres, or I don't know, because Max doesn't show the pace that he had shown previously, so that I think that there's something not quite right. These cars, of course, compared to an excellent standard for all the teams, especially Hill Speed, but sometimes components can just fail. It's one of those things. These are very complicated machines with lots of different bits and pieces. I think we better move out of the way, otherwise we're going to get run over.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. I know that actually Hill Speed, haven't done as much testing as some of the other teams here. Obviously, there was one test day on this layout of the circuit, but other than that, we were on the Indy circuit, which, as you said earlier, and have explained very, very well, is completely different. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky one for Max, and I think he'll be very disappointed when we catch up with him, hopefully before the final race. We're where he is now, having gone into this race as the joint championship leader, and Nick winning really is the worst thing for Max, isn't it?
Championship, again, he was championship leader at the start of the race, again a big gap at the end of the race, so it's going to fluctuate until the end of the season. I'm hoping it goes down to the wire, but if Nicholas Taylor continues at this run of form where he's just making good races, good starts, not making mistakes, and carrying on with that speed, he's been the fastest driver all year. It's evident at this stage now he's the fastest driver. It's just whether he can keep it together, and I'm fortunately, as much as I want Max to be right there at the end, if he can't find some speed unlock some speed at the last round, then it's looking like it's going one way.
A tricky one, but great for Nick, great for Fortec as well, and Fortec could, in theory, have 2 championship winners this year, with Joel Granfors doing very, very well in the GB3 Championship. And that is where we will next be visiting at about 3:20 for the final race of the weekend. And if you've never watched this before, it's an exciting final race, isn't it? Because the grid is reversed. It means the slowest drivers in qualifying start at the front of the grid, which means anything can happen. We've seen Fortec's other driver, Mikael Grundvik, win 2 races in that reverse grid race, having not actually had the pace in qualifying, so it really proves that anything can happen. We'll be back at 3:20 for the final race in the weekend of the GB3 Championship.